my goodness. Well, I had to get the little bit of cosplay out of the way before we got started tonight. Fortunately, yeah, that's it. That's the extent that you're going to see. Although Slim Summers will be watching over the broadcast tonight. Yeah, we're going to be focused on that gentleman and other characters too. It's going to be interesting. And I see so many of you are excited in the chat while we get this thing started. So, I'm not going to waste any time here. Let's bring Mr. Nick Forst in and get this thing started. Hey, Nick.
Hey,
Well,
good evening, Bill. Good evening, chat. Good evening, Caffers.
and you've got the good lighting on tonight. I'm jealous. Usually, I try to throw a light on. I didn't do it today, but we don't need to because you've got it all rocking and rolling there at your place.
Oh yeah, well, so it takes a village, right? So I've got a lighting director, I've got all sorts of people. Hey, Jiggy, it really takes a lot, and there's been a lot of support on Instagram. Like Jiggy posted, Ian posted, some other folks have commented. So I think everyone is really excited for tonight.
Absolutely. We've had a few character collectors on in the past, and even on some Comic Art Live interviews and whatnot. But it has not happened yet. Like if Kazra was doing a show, there wasn't another MODOK collector that he could be talking to because there was probably only one. I don't know, maybe. But here we have two Cyclops fans who both collect a fair amount of Cyclops artwork, having an interview about your collection in particular. But it just hasn't happened before. It's a cataclysmic event that may or may not shake the multiverse in some improper ways, you knew it was bound to happen, Nick. I mean, because just seeing your collection, and I started watching it, following it immediately when I knew you collected Cyclops art. That this was an inevitable interview that we had to do on the channel.
That fills me with so much joy, Bill, because when I got involved with CAF and found the website, I didn't know you loved, Cyclops as much as you do. And then, I started watching the CAF lives and everyone's like reaming you out for loving Cyclops. And I'm like, me too. Like, we're the only people, like, it's unite. And so, I'm really flattered by that. And, as much as everyone kind of hazes us, I think the CAF community is super welcoming. I've made some really good friends. Newell and I talk all the time now. Ian and I talk. Jason and I are going to try to get drinks at some point. So next time he's out here. So there's a growing community, and it's been really, really welcoming.
Without question. I mean, I think that's the thing, that the embodiment of what comic art fans is about, always has been and always will be, is, it's a community where we all like to share our collections, right? I mean, we're proud of them, and maybe we don't show off every single piece in our collection, but I mean, that's what CAF is for. And it in the 20 plus years it's been out there, it's definitely created a lot of friendships, people bonding over artists that they love or titles that they love, or they just find out they're 2 blocks away from one another in the same right. Maybe one of these days we'll have, for those who want to opt into it, you can actually let people know, sort of like what city you're in or something, so you can actually do meetups and whatnot. But yeah, exactly. I mean, it's been a lot of fun, clearly, for me to manage CAF for all this time, and now to have all the team around us getting to fill in all the holes that we've had for most of the time. But yeah, so here we are, and two fans of Cyclops. So I got it. We could talk about your backstory and everything, but let's just talk about Cyclops first. I mean, when did you realize Cyclops was the guy from the X-Men, and somebody who would maybe drive part of your I don't know, your fandom, your drive for collectibles? I mean, I know that you don't just have representative pieces of artwork of Cyclops in the house, for instance.
Yeah, so I think it really goes back to, and I think this is a big entry point for a lot of folks now, is the animated series from the 90s. And I grew up when that was coming out. We would do ski lessons on Saturday. They would run till about 10:30. X-Men was on at 11, and my dad was a ski instructor, so I was like, Dad, we got to get off the mountain, we got to get in the car, and we got to be home, because if I miss the episode this week, I'm gonna lose it. And so that really was the first thing that I think really got me into it. And so I've always liked Cyclops from that minute on. And then it really expanded into the comic books and, of course, the Fox movies, even though they do him really dirty. He's always been sort of the one character that I've really loved, and it's just grown from there. So it was, the action figures, and then, I had the X-Men bedding, I had the X-Men throw pillow, I had X-Men posters, and I had X-Men, they used to make those like silk screened like wall hangers. I had one of those. It was like X-Men was like a big deal, and it just grew and grew and grew. And then a few years ago, it really became now like collecting the artwork. And we'll talk about it later, but getting one of like the essential artists that I think have done probably the best work on X-Men, if not top five, getting an original art piece from them, it's super special, and I just want to continue to grow that collection. And I will say, you sell yourself short on the importance of CAF, because it's also a really important historical tool, cataloging so much. And I was just looking for a Chris Bacalo piece the other night, and boom, it's right there on CAF. And so I know who owns it. I've seen the original and what it looks like. So, definitely a really cool thing. But it started with that animated series. And, I know a couple people in the chat are really talking about the new show and the 97 series. And yeah, I mean, I think the creators really realized that Cyclops is like a bigger part of the X-Men team and a more essential part of the story, not just in the comic books, but how in the animated series needs to run. And so, yeah, it is part of his like sort of redemption tour. And I have high hopes for the MCU to do like sort of a redemption of James Marsden as Cyclops. And then when they do cast what I presume to be a younger team, that Cyclops is at the head of that team.
That's my wishes as well. Yeah, I thought they ended James' life a little bit too abruptly in the series. It's like, what? How does the movie start on that note, right? I think James wanted out of the whole thing or something. It just happened so quickly that, yeah, I was pretty disappointed in that particular moment. But yeah, Jason's saying that we're jealous of his Chris Bacalo cover with all the side. Yeah, Jason, everyone who collects X-Men art in one way or another, at least with one piece or another in your collection, is jealous of you to a certain extent. But no, I get that. And the funny thing is, for me, I missed the cartoon, really. I mean, from the time I was collecting comics, and I had that period after college, so I kind of missed all that. I knew it was going on because I'd hear about it, but or I'd read about it somewhere, but I never got to see it until long after it aired. And so I kind of regret that. I remember hearing it and I'm thinking, oh, everybody now gets the X-Men, right? After whatever period. But it's true. A lot of collectors that I've talked to, like yourself, it's that cartoon, it's the trading cards that were coming out during that, during the 90s, that really got everybody excited. Maybe everybody wasn't reading the comics, but they were digesting the X-Men in particular, as a title and as a like a mythology in a different way, and it made it cool. So I look at it now and I'm like, wow, I wish that would have happened earlier, like in the 80s or something. But either way, I mean, whatever brought collectors to to the team is always a good thing. Well, I'm seeing lots of people are commenting in the chat. Stingray,
This is
who
a
is asking.
controversial topic, Bill.
It is. It really is. I was reading through there. Yeah, Stingray, you don't have a Warner Roth in your
No,
collection, do
I
you?
don't have a Werner Roth. So that's part of like, and I'll say this, like my sort of mantra for the last few years has been ABC, always be commissioning, right? And
Mhm.
so you'll see in my CAF, it's like 99.9% all commissions or mystery sketches, which I'm a big fan of mystery sketches, which is how I really found CAF. But it's really only in the last year I've been really trying to hunt down some very specific OA. But
Mhm.
I know you guys always do like your top 5 X-Men artists. Mine skew, I think, a lot more modern. But definitely, I think Stingray's right. Like everybody's got to have like those quintessential artists in their collection.
Well, that was one of the things I was going to talk to you about, was the fact that you're more of a commission collector, at least right now.
Mhm.
And so, but I didn't know that it was mystery sketches that brought you to CAF. I mean, did you know
Yeah.
about CAF before the mystery sketches, or
Not
how did?
really. So I think it was, and we talk about this on the show, a lot. Like, how do you find artists? How do you find, commission opportunities? And so a lot of it is Instagram. And then I think it was, and I really thought hard about this because I knew we were probably going to talk about it. But I was trying to think of like which artist was going to do mystery sketches and posted it to Instagram. And I was like, what's this? And then all of a sudden I'm buying, 3 or 5 or 6 mystery sketches a go. And just, I like obsess about it. Like the minute you post the link, I'm like, I've got a laundry list of characters. I'm starting to tick down that list. And then it's like, all right, who am I going to get? Right. So I think it's one of the coolest things on the internet.
Wow, I'm glad you get it. I don't think everybody does, but I'm with you. The idea that you're discovering new artists. We try to bring in several new artists every time we do it, with that kind of the intent. I mean, not everybody's a convention sketch commission collector, and so we understand it's not something for everybody. But I think it is one of the cooler things out there. That's why I've bought 5 at minimum every time we've done them, because and I don't think I've gotten a duplicate. Maybe once with Next Comic Art for somebody like gosh, maybe Harvey. I think I've gotten 2 pieces from Harvey before, but yeah, it's a very neat thing. I'm glad that's what brought you to CAF and got you to start sharing your collection. And I did put the link to your CAF gallery in the chat, so those who aren't familiar with Nick's collection can do that throughout the show.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Everybody's got to top Marcus and make more comments. So
that is true. I don't know if anybody can do that, but where was that? Somebody asked a question. James Siegel wanted to know what if you could give us what's your top 5 X-Men artists
I mean, I
of all
think,
time.
and you can look at some of the pieces that I have. I mean, in no particular order, I really love Josh Cassara, who's been on the show.
Hmm.
He and Martha are just absolutely wonderful. I think he's going to be known as one of the like seminal X-Men artists. I think Netho Diaz, who's working on X-Men right now, even though I think a lot of folks don't like his um, mimicry of Stegman's designs, I think he will go down as a big artist in the future. I think Kirby has to be up there, so that's like the one original. I think you can't go wrong with throwing that in there. I would also say that John Cassidy, who we're going to talk about, is I think up there. There's just something so clean about that. And then I kind of waver on who else to put in there. I mean, Byrne is great, but I think also it's part of like the list should never be like locked in. You should always just be open. And I would even argue, and we'll talk about this artist as well, is Carmen Carnero on Exceptional X-Men is doing a lot of great work. I think she's really wonderful. Definitely trying to get a wider range of female and non-American artists in my collection too, which I think is really important. And I did try in the slides we're going to go through is to pick artists that I haven't seen on this show before, or at least I've only seen maybe one piece. And so there's like a Dan Hip in my collection that we're not going to talk about. There's a Chris Samney we're not going to talk about. There's some really good stuff in there that I was like, this is tough to leave off the list, but I really want to talk about this other person.
That's awesome. And I was, going to comment about that as well. I mean, the majority of the artists that you've selected are not ones that we've talked about or very infrequent. I think maybe one or two we've had on the CAF update, and probably from Chris Snork picking, that artist. But by and large, yeah, all of these creators that we're going to be looking at, we've not talked about on the show before. So that's fantastic. I mean, it's great that you kind of came into it with a game plan like that, because again, it's all about it's fun exposing collectors to different artists and art styles. And boy, see, there's a lot of angst in the chat there about our love for the Cyclops here.
I just love that Stingray picked up and says commissions are for closers, and it's like commissions are for closers only. Like, and
Stingray knows all about that, right? I mean, he definitely has more commissions than published pieces.
Oh yeah, and I think that's a natural bond. Like Stingray and I now are chatting about that. I really love his new idea with the Stingray meats. So that's
Hmm.
really cool. We were chatting about that the other day. I will say, to Jason's question, I think top Cyclops costumes, and you'll see in the deck, it's Astonishing X-Men, right? So that's John Cassidy's. That's the blue body condom. And then, yeah, I said it. Don't worry. It's not 11 o'clock yet, but we'll get there. I think Jim Lee in the '90s, right? So the classic, animated series costume. And then, I have a soft spot for some of his weirder stuff. Like the what's it called? The oh geez, when he's locked in prison and they turn him into the basilisk. I like that
Oh,
costume
right,
too.
right.
Some of the weirder stuff, but the '70s costumes are great, like the one you have in the Alex Ross in the background,
Hmm.
classic. I'd say I'm not a big fan of the white and blue X Factor costume, so I definitely shy away from that one.
Yeah, I'm with you
He
there. It wasn't the best,
No,
unfortunately.
it's also just that, they're all very samey, right? So you have Jean in the red and yellow, and then you've got Scott in the blue and white, and then you've got Beast in the blue and yellow, and then you've got Iceman in like the light blue and white. And it's, you know, I don't know. I feel like there's somebody who really follows like, design and is like, listen, you got to like visually differentiate them from each other. So,
They tried too hard with those costumes, I think. I mean, I would have
mhm.
rather had them wearing their classic costumes over those, but you didn't mention like, or maybe I glossed it over when you were mentioning, like the Frank Whiteley's version when with Grant Morrison. Not a fan of the leather jacket look.
So, it's that, and then the ultimate costumes probably rank lower for me, right? Like the
Hmm.
short sleeve with like the tactical pack and
Yeah,
everything, and getting rid of the X symbols everywhere. It took me a while to really like the Stegman costume with like the yellow body armor that I'm coming around on. But Cyclops, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's the visor, it's the head. Like you could just shoot him from up here, and you really don't need to see anything else. So,
right.
um, it's cool. He's got some good outfits, but I've always tried to imagine him kind of like more asymmetrical, and that's what I like about the Jim Lee one is that like the bandolier that kind of comes around. And I think Mindy Lee, who we're gonna look at some art from, does redesigns of characters, and she has a great Cyclops redesign that's almost like an astronaut outfit, and it's not baggy in the way you think of like sort of like Man on the Moon spacewalk kind of thing, but it
Hmm.
has a big visor and it's kind of like a big helmet, and she does a really good job at that. So there's definitely some areas they can push in.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Yeah, Bob Layton could have had a little bit to do with those X Factor costumes. Yeah, I think that there was a few people I think in the Marvel bullpen who were probably working on figuring that out. But I know there was like a failure to launch, right? I mean, there was several issues with that book before it got started, and maybe the costumes were a part of that. You never know. Bob Kane, Marcus Bob Kane never worked on any X-Men titles that I'm aware of. I don't know. Um, so there. Okay. But what, so that, the cartoons a while ago, so was it first comics? I mean, did you go from the cartoon into comics, or was there, or how do you get from cartoon and, and that kind of period of discovering X-Men to collecting original art? Because it seems like a fairly large gap, right? Because, just uh, explain it to me.
Yeah. So, comic book, well, the show, the animated show really is '90s. I'm growing up, I'm, in elementary school, essentially, probably like third to fifth grade or something like that. I can't even remember those days now, but always loved it, was big into art. I actually got into the Rhode Island School of Design when I was in high school. Did not go, went a completely different way with my life. I'm an attorney by trade. And so I also thought I was going to do entertainment law at one point. Didn't go that direction either. But it was always sort of dancing around in these different spheres of loving art and film. And I've looked at comic book representation contracts for a few people. just in my legal life, but always have had a fascination with it. Always had a sketchbook, around. And then it was really like, as I was getting out of law school, then, I had some liquidity that allowed me to go and start getting those commissions. And so, it's like a high school student's not going to be able to afford that. And, I will say there's one person who probably doesn't even remember that they had such an impact. I had a friend in law school who was a character collector, and he didn't really know it. He collected only Solomon Grundy and The Question, and he worked at Pratt in the late 80s, early 90s.
Mhm.
And he would go to Comic-Cons all over the place and meet folks that, now are huge names. And he's got, a little table sketch, and he's got a whole collection of them. And if you asked him now, he doesn't do it anymore. But I said, that's a genius idea. And that was really the impetus to start character collecting Cyclops. Was like, oh, he's got a half a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen Solomon Grundy pieces, and maybe they're only, 5x5 or 8x8 or 5x6s. And I'm like, I'm going to start doing that with Cyclops. And we're going to look at that first piece that I got. So.
Well, that's cool. So, well, that's interesting. Yeah, that's a friend now. So they're not into comic art or comics much at all.
They got married. They had a kid, and they just like said goodbye.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. So that's cool. I mean, his focus inspired you in its own way to do something similar. But you're not burned out at all. It seems like you're really just sort of like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're really kind of just getting started. It seems like you're always finding new art. You're posting a lot of art to your CAF gallery really regularly. But what was the first commission experience that you had? Was it or was the first piece of art that you bought from an artist something that was already drawn? How did that first moment happen?
So, Bill, do you want to pull up the first slide? Because that's exactly what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's see here. Here we go.
All right. So, and I'm going to apologize to a lot of people in the chat. So I have no chill, and I frame a lot of artwork. So you're going to see a lot of stuff that's been framed for a lot of years, and I can't crack it open. So this is actually the first commission I ever got. And so this was Yale Stewart, 2014. I was dating who is now my wife, and I said, hey, I'm going to get us a nice little like couple gift. And I was following Yale pretty seriously on Facebook, and he's a DC guy. He does JL8. And I said, can you do Scott and Jean as, JL8 characters, in that sort of like, elementary school, 3rd, 4th grade style. And nothing else. I didn't give him any, feedback other than the costumes. And this is one of the coolest pieces in my whole collection. I think the text that he puts in here and the sort of sentimentality of this piece is really excellent. And I can tell you, I was in a car driving, trying to buy this through like Facebook chat back in the day. And that was one of the first experiences, it was the first experience I had with buying a commissioned piece. It came in the mail, and then we rushed it right to the framer, and it's been in every apartment that we've had. It's like, been really one of those great pieces. And as you can see, there's not much to it. It's just, it's pencils and then the inks and the text, and it's just really, really excellent. I think this is, a great piece. And I think Yale, obviously is known for JL8 and DC and Batman. And I've got a Batman piece from him. But this really is like the start. So if anybody's wondering where I started, it's right here.
So, and you also started in your car. Right?
Yes.
That'd be the other thing.
You have to do deals where you can do deals, Bill. I also, I was well trained to get a lot of pieces because I also was collecting Mondo art prints and posters, and those drop, and there's maybe 100, 120, and they go in 15 seconds. And so you've got to be Johnny on the spot with, oh, here's your credit card details, purchase, click, go. And it's not as easy as it is now. So not that we were time pressured for this piece, but it was really the first like negotiation of like, how big is it going to be? What characters do you want? What costumes are they going to have? Do you care about background? All those essential questions. And that was really, the thing. I will never do a car deal with Anthony Stingray. That scares me to death.
Oh man. Well, it's can I ever bought anything while driving a car? I can't. I mean, I must have, but not comic art. I've not bought a piece of comic art while behind the wheel. But we've seen it. We've heard it. On the shows before, like somebody on Dueling Dealers picking something up while they were driving, or a Saturday afternoon drop. Carl Choi, I think, has bought a few pieces while he's been in his car. I think he's bought a piece when he was on a plane one time. So it can happen anywhere, I guess.
It's really crazy. I mean, the Dan Hippett piece in my collection, I bought that in the car after Thanksgiving. I think he had like a Black Friday drop. I know we don't have slides of that one, but I had an alarm on my phone like 20 minutes before that said like Dan Hipp website link, here you go, alarms going off. And, you just get ready to put that in there because you're really not going to have another chance. And I found more and more artists are doing annual drops. Their real commission lists are annual now. I just passed on Chris Stevens, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Felix, like big tier. But you get one chance a year, and it's like you either email at that precise minute or you're not getting it. And before you say anything, Bill, I want to give a big shout out to Tatiana and Carl, because as a commission person, they did that intro to collecting segment for Comic Art Live, and they gave a lot of great tips that took me a long time to start, developing, keeping a list, managing, what you have in the queue in terms of what you've paid for, who you still owe money to, if you're doing broken up payments, etc. So that, if you haven't seen that, if there's anyone new here who's like, oh, how do I get started? That segment is absolutely amazing. They have really great advice. I have to give Carl and Tatiana a lot of credit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that Tatiana's done a lot of good. She had the framing episode. She's covering a lot of topics, which are things that we kind of skirt around here. But yeah, and a thing or two about framing yourself. Like you said, I know that a lot of the pieces we're going to look at tonight, they are framed, so we don't have like a scan, because like you said, you get it in, you get it framed, and it goes up on the wall.
Yeah, Carl gives some really good advice about, making sure you scan stuff, but as well as perhaps not framing originals. And I took that really to heart with a couple things. Brent Spiner, the actor who played Data, he lost his home in the California wildfires and lost tons of, original Star Trek memorabilia and stuff from the set and things he's, collected at conventions from fans. And I like that actor and I like Star Trek, but like, it really shocked me to think like, how would I take, the 15 or 20 pieces I have framed, which are on this wall, which you can't see. And we thought about switching positions, but you get like the Tom Fowler in that corner and you get the Mannix up here. But, if there really was an incident, like this is at least like an hour's worth of work in addition to packing up essentials, the cats, your wife, and then hitting the road. So,
well, I know which pair of shoes you're going to put on for you.
Oh, yeah, we should do that before we get further. So,
you don't want to forget.
Yeah, no. Well, the wife
you can show
asked
these
me to
babies
show
off.
these. So, and I'll get the camera to focus on them a little bit. Sorry, it's trying to autofocus.
There you go.
But
Hold it up close and it'll zoom in. It'll focus. There we go.
so these are Kith and Asics did a collab, and they had shoes for each of the X-Men. And so for Christmas last year, I got the Cyclops shoes. So these are limited edition blind box Cyclops shoes that she actually tracked down through eBay. And so they all come with a trading card. They're slabbed. They have, I think, 6 or 7 different variations of them. And then they go up from like 1 of 1 to like 1 of 1,000.
So if I want to get a pair, I have to go check out eBay and see.
Yeah, I think, it's tough. They had 2 different Wolverines. They have a Beast, a Rogue, Gambit, Storm. I think that's all of it. And Jiggy's asking what card I got. I got the orange one. I think this is one of like 500. So it doesn't zoom well. This camera I bought is not great for show and tell.
Well, hey, I think that's cool. I did not know anything about those because I would have been all over that. But have you wore them out though? That's the question.
Never. No, 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 no. They stay in the box. You know, they're kind of like, you know, irreplaceable. So I have not worn them. Maybe like to get buried, you know, or like if I was going to meet, you know, you in person, maybe I'll wear them. I'll wear them
That would be a
to
photo.
OAX.
Right, exactly. OAX. See, you missed out on the Chris Stevens op, but you know, he does do drawings at shows. I mean, I don't know how many he gets done, but I know he's in the 2 years he went to OAX that he did some sketching while he was there and brought some stuff. So you never know. But yeah. Jason wonders why you didn't get any Juggernaut shoes or Phoenix, or maybe he's just wondering if those were even options.
No, there's no Juggernaut, no Phoenix. I don't even think they have Jean Grey. I think they just went, I think Rogue and Storm are the only female characters they did.
Well, Storms would be easy. Well, I guess Rogue both of them were probably pretty cool. I'm still gonna look into it because I knew nothing about it until you showed me that right before we started the show today.
Well, and it goes too. I'm wearing a Cyclops t-shirt too. So, and you know, I'll do some light throws, but Zach Merrill, who's on Instagram under Action Tees, does limited drop silk screen or screen printed t-shirts. And so he just did a Cyclops run called Blasted. And so I got the shirts, and then I said to Zach, I said, listen, hey, can I get just a print of like the screen print? Like, can you just make me one? And so that's what's hanging up behind us right now. It's on the shirt. It's not quite the same because it's the prototype. So it's a one of one, the original before he finalized the actual screen printing. So if you are a character fan, go talk to Zach and he will design a shirt for you. And then hopefully you get it, you know, in a massive run. So is really cool stuff there. But Action Tees is great. He's out of Pittsburgh too.
Pittsburgh. I'm writing it down. And that was Zach Merrill.
Yeah. I'll get the link for everybody while we're here.
All right. Yeah, if you want, you can throw it in the private chat, and then I can post it through there. Or if you're able to do it too, that would be cool.
Oh yeah.
But that's awesome. See, and again, it's always great to have a supportive spouse buy you those tennis shoes. I don't recall. Well, Maureen buys a lot. She lets me buy the mystery sketches that I get for the whole family because everybody enjoys them. And then what did she get me last? She always buys me like one pair of socks every Christmas that have some kind of superhero reference, usually X-Men related. I mean, I've got that X-Men tie was a gift from her. So I'm wearing my Alex Garcia Cyclops shirt. Alex, I got to see in San Diego. Oh, there we go in the private chat. Let me get that.
Yeah, that should work. That should take you to his page.
There we go. So at Zach Merrill, probably.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's always fun to get stuff like that. Sorry, I'm just reading the chat a little bit. I guess the Andy Kubert the book finally was shipped out. Chuck Arnold said he got a Magneto drawing in his, so that's good. Congrats, Chuck.
Oh, nice. Also a character I really love.
I think we were going to see an image, later in the show. That we didn't talk about that at the start. There will be a few pieces that are not in your CAF, so the pieces that people have not seen, brand new to your collection, that you're going to post to your CAF after the show. So we'll be looking at those a little bit later.
3 big reveals, and you can all thank Stingray in the chat because I really wanted to torture you all with nothing but Cyclops for 2 to 3 hours. And Stingray said, you got to show him something else. So there's 3 or 4 pieces that are just not Cyclops.
Everyone will appreciate that after after 20 images of Cyclops. See, yeah, Stingray says he's helping. Yeah, exactly. Well, we should just start looking at art because we do have you did send a bit more than usual, but all of them are too good to pass up. See, number one Marvel fan says, "Good Lord, yeah, it would have been a different show, but you're still gonna see a lot of Cyclops here. Don't think otherwise." Marcus really wants it. That's because that just would give him the opportunity to badmouth our beloved Cyclops. But let's go to this first one because it's the only one. Well, I can't say it's a recreation, I guess, or an homage to a Bruce Timm piece, and it's by Megan Feinberg. Is that
Yeah,
right?
so this is a really special piece. So, you talk about having a really great spouse. So this is actually done by my wife, and she
Ah,
saw Bruce Timm has a painting of Cyclops. She did this on 8.5 by 11, computer paper. Did this with magic marker, and I've got this framed. It sits right above my desk. It's right up here, and I look at it every day, and it's one of my favorite pieces. It's got a really slick blue frame with a little bit of like dark blue line in it, and that's how you have a great spouse who supports your addiction to commission art when they're making you pieces. And I think it's a really great recreation of Bruce's piece. I know he loves a lot of nude pieces, so we don't need Cyclops in the buff, but this is a great one.
See, and this is probably my favorite costume. I'll say it. Just that era, and the pirate boots or whatever you want to call them. I always thought this was a fun costume. I get why you like the Jim Lee kind of helps break up the uniformity of it as well. But for me, this is the classic costume for that I appreciate. So I'm look at everybody's one. I'm not wearing I don't even have a visor, everybody. Let's just get that out of the way right now. I do not. There, look. There you go. Nick's put his visor on. I hope everybody's happy now.
So you guys better watch out because it also lights up.
There you go. Look at that. Mine is like a pair of sunglasses from the 70s. I don't even know where I put them. I think I left them on the bar when I filmed that little segment earlier today. Yeah, but I just have a band that you can see through. So yeah, but I've been jealous. Who was it? Who had that? Ken Carson from Forst has a pair of Cyclops visors as well. And the moment I saw him, I was jealous. But yeah, I can't unless one of my family gets me a Christmas present of them. I'll probably never have one. But I have a classic costume in the other room that I've worn for a few memes. So
We
never
got to
got
do
that.
more Cyclops memes. I mean, I also cosplay. I think folks are aware that I have the Batman outfit. Because
Hmm.
if you've watched my unboxing for Next Comic Art, but Cyclops is the pinnacle. He's like the costume I haven't even attempted yet because if I get it even slightly wrong, I'll be emotionally devastated for the rest of my life. So, I've got like a visor and I've got some other stuff, but like that's the thing I'm working up to for forever.
I get it. I get it. No, you're right. He's for as much as I talk about the character, we never did a lot of memes. That was kind of like by the time I got the costume, we were kind of on the downside of doing a lot of memes and stuff for the Dueling Dealers shows. So I just haven't had the opportunity to do it. There's a lot of Thor ones out there, right? Because I started that early, but yeah, I bought the Cyclops suit and I only used it twice for stuff. But it's immortalized on a sticker that Marcus made, or maybe it was Mikhail. I don't know who did it, but they passed them out at San Diego one year. So yeah, did you get one of those? I could send you one.
No, I gotta get in on all the little, cool inside joke merch, but you should
All
have
right.
at OAX, you should have a little room that everyone can go film their own CAF meme.
We thought about doing something like that, and we run out of time. But
Yeah, listen, I'm a
that was one
dreamer,
of the thoughts. So
so
the first year we brought like props from the show and had a booth just for it. So the Thor hammer was there. I don't know if anybody did anything with any of it, but it was between Anthony and Mike where they were set up that show. Um, but but yeah, but there's so many other things that go on at OAX. We don't have any space for anything but show floor and stuff like that. CJ said, yeah, you did, CJ. You drew a visor on me. Yeah. No, I've never had one before, but I appreciate it. Um,
I'm gonna
Anyway,
get Alberto back later for Cyclops is the pinnacle is a sentence you'll likely never
I
hear
know.
again.
I was about ready to jump to slide 17 right now because Alberto was talking, smack in there. Do you want to? We
Oh
could.
yeah.
We could just skip right. Alberto, this one's for you. Now this should be on a T-shirt. Honest to God, take a look at that.
So this
Yeah.
is just insane, and this is from Derek Jones. He lives in New York City. Um, you know, he did the Cyclops, or not the Cyclops. He did the Spider-Man and Magneto versus piece. If you've seen, he's done Captain America and Winter Soldier versus Crossbones. He does a lot of versus pieces, and as soon as I saw those, I had to jump on this. And one of the other books that I was just reading again another time was Avengers versus X-Men, and I said, why don't we do Cyclops versus Cap? And I thought he was really just going to do like the optic blast breaking through the shield and kind of like cutting at Cap. And he went full bore and just did this like insane annihilation of Captain America. So that's what you get, Alberto. I was waiting for you to say something. And
I
this
think
piece
Alberto's
is,
still on vacation too, but he's at least agreeing that this is a pretty cool piece. But yeah, I smiled when I saw this. It's so
it's
good.
incredible. And the pictures that Derek posted on Instagram don't capture what some of the high res scans do, like all of the fine cracks that he drew in the shield. And then if you look at it, and I don't know if you can scroll in, Bill, but on Cap's head, he actually drew the A in sort of the annihilated skull, sort of like flash burn sort of skeleton, which is just absolutely incredible.
The only way I can do that is, let's see if I go over here and
Yeah, you can see that A in his forehead, and it's just like getting blasted away.
yeah, did you where was that comment from Alberto? It's clearly a dream sequence. But James at least agrees this is exactly how it would go down. So I agree with Mr. Siegel as well. This is the way it would go. But I know I thought this is fantastic. I mean, that's such a great image. It's very kind of I don't know. I watch a lot of manga with the kids, right? And it has just something that has that kind of vibe to the pose, the scream, the final. This is how we're going to end this long drawn out battle that's lasted the entire 22 minutes of this episode. It ends
Mhm.
like that, and
Yep.
yeah, that's exactly how I would see it ending too.
I have
He
to
gave
give
him
Derek a lot of credit because he does a lot of really nice pencil work and then completely paints all over it. So, this is a fully painted piece. You don't see the pencils come through. And so, he also streams some of this on YouTube, which is great. And I love when artists do that. So I got to see some of the creation of this. And, it is slightly monotone in terms of the characters and the rocks, which I think juxtaposes really well with the blue background. But you're right, it does have that manga style or that anime style where it's almost like his optic blast creates its own gravity field of all these rocks around it, etc. So really a cool piece.
Yeah, no, I love it, and I don't think we've ever gotten that many comments when showing a slide during the show ever. I'd love to know how many went by there, but they were all fun, and many from artists too. It's cool seeing the PJ's in the chat. I saw JP and Jim Jimenez, John and Moore, a lot of Next Comic Art crew hanging out this evening. Ian Cinco, of course, as well. So yeah, no, this is this is a good one. And we couldn't wait till slide 17 to show that one off though. Like, it wouldn't have been right. But I don't think we desecrate any other Marvel heroes throughout the rest of these. At least I don't believe so.
No, but I'll admit I have a second piece coming from Derek. So to be determined whether you're going to see more of the, Cyclops kills the Marvel universe kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Sorry, I'm just reading through the chat. Everybody thoroughly enjoyed that one. That's great. All right. Well, let's take a look at a different piece here. This one, who's the artist on this one?
So again, with artists that we haven't really seen, this is by an artist named Louis Joyce. He's from Australia. Some of his work includes Godzilla Skate or Die. I think it's Fist of the Dragon. I have a whole note. I have notes. I should just refer to my notes. A Fistful of Pain, which he did on Kickstarter with Ryan K. Lindsay. His work is this very, like all the proportions are weird, but it's got a lot of movement and energy to it. And he was one of the first artists I found because he does a lot of zines for skating, inline skating. And I said, you'd be great. I think this is just really wonderful. He did this black and white piece and then did the color highlights. It's based on the Sega Genesis video game from the 90s, the first X-Men game. So this is all in the Shi'ar Empire, which is I think the second stage in the video game. And it's infamous for all the elevators you have to take. And Cyclops is a playable character. Jean you can use to help you out. And then you fight Deathbird in this sort of glass dome that you see out into space with. So I really liked this piece because it captures that memory. I played that game on Sega Genesis ad nauseum. And Louis was really great about throwing in a lot of really cool Easter eggs in this. I told Newell the other day that I would put this up for him because it's got the coolest little space whale that you can see in the close-up shot over Cyclops' shoulder. And then it's got the Shi'ar guard up in the top left who's kind of going what the heck is going on? And then it's got the Shi'ar spaceship in the top. And this is just a really cool piece that it's got a style unlike anything else that I think folks have seen. And Louis continues to really, grow as an artist, even though he's on the other side of the planet.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I like the ink wash in it. That was one of the things that stood out initially, was just seeing some nice contrast, fun approach to the anatomy on the figures, and then just getting a little bit of, the ink wash always adds a little depth to it. So I like this piece a lot.
It's one of the only ones I've seen where Cyclops shoots kind of like a fan of optic blasts, which is neat too. And when you see this piece in person, that red is just, it pops so hard. It really just makes this piece. And I agree with you. The ink wash just sells it 100%.
Yeah, he's got that giant space fish out there too. Nice attention.
Yeah, space whale.
Space whale. Thank you. Yes. No, I love this. Mark Funk says this came from a land down under. It did, Mark. So accurate. Well, that's cool. Louis Joyce. I'll have to make a note of that. I like that. Now this next piece isn't a piece of comic art, actually. It's a piece of animation art, something we don't talk about too often on the channel, but I think we will be doing more of it. I mean, I'd be hard pressed to guess that a lot of people don't have, at least one piece of animation related art, in their collection, whether it's a pencil prelim or something. I mean, it is accessible, affordable by and large when you compare it to what we normally pay for commissions or published pieces. And then you have such a great moment too in the history of Jean and Scott right here.
Yeah, this came up on Heritage Auction maybe a month and a half ago or so. And there's a CAF collector who I think is liquidating their collection of this because they have all the ones that have been posted on Heritage. And this is probably one of the top 2 Cyclops moments in the entirety of the show. This is the end of the Dark Phoenix saga where Scott and Jean fight against the Imperial Guard on the dark side of the moon. This is right after all of the other X-Men have been taken out. They have their beautiful moment in that little overhang here. And then they come out and Cyclops just blasting to give them air cover. And when I saw this, I said, nothing will stop me from buying this. And so I put in an absolutely ridiculous bid, that anytime it got bid up, I immediately came in over the top. So I had to have this. And tonight, just before the show, another set of animation cells from the animated series were sold from the same episode as well. But I passed on those because I have the one I want. And it's perfect. It's like the perfect animation cell, and it's a piece of history. It's like owning OA, but of a certain, ilk. And I know you've talked about wanting to have a little bit more of this on the show, so I wanted to make sure I included it. And if anything, folks who are looking to buy these, the cell is very cool. It's taped to the painted background, which in and of itself is an amazing piece of art. And I purchased a second one in the same auction of Cyclops, more so because the painted background is from the first episode. And so like I've got a piece from when they storm into the mutant registration building, and it's like, yep, I've got the painted background for that. Like, it's just so cool to have like this piece of nostalgia and the real production art, because as much as you want some finished sort of product or something that's really glossy and finalized, this is what aired on TV.
Exactly. Marcus is giving Scott a few demerits for his approach to the end of this battle. But what were they to do? They were cornered. It's the Butch Cassidy, Sundance, all that kind of last moment stuff. You had to go out blazing. So it is what it is. But yeah, no, it was this was fun to see animated, because having read the comic, I had no idea how they would tackle the storyline in the animated cartoon. But I thought it was pretty well done. Wasn't completely identical, but still really really close and fun, and a pivotal moment. And yeah, I've got a few cells from the series as well, but none as cool as this one. So I am jealous. So it's a bit like you just said. Sometimes there's a piece that comes up for auction, you just go for it. And this was one that you were not going to be denied, because how often there's going to be other cells close to that one, but I mean, this was your chance to get a really really grail level animation piece, and you did.
It is like probably my one of the top two favorite moments in the series, as I've said. And you talk about how the show kind of mimics the comics. I mean, that scene is almost verbatim to the page. And so if folks saw the thumbnail for the show, I'm reading the Dark Phoenix saga and I have that page open, and you can't tell that, but that's one of my favorite scenes in like the entire run. I send that page to artists to say, like, this is the feeling I'm going for from time to time. And so I was like, not, like you said, not going to be denied this cell. And I mean, the bid was just absolutely insane. Like, if I had to pay that much, I would have been out of my mind. But
but when the moment hits you during an auction, I mean, it can happen. But again, it was the right piece. It's in the right collector's hands. You knew it. It was the right choice. We all get into those moments, but no, you did really well. I think. I mean, I'm looking at the detail scan at the moment, and it's fantastic. So I'm jealous. I'd put that one up on the wall. Definitely. Although Jeff Wedding might tell us that that's not the right thing to do with an animation cell, because he knows a thing or two about that kind of stuff. But it's something I'd want to look at every day for sure.
It's hanging out in the baggie from Heritage Auction between the cardboard that they shipped it in. So right now it's protected. But I agree. I don't know if I would hang that one, because I don't know what it'll do to the cell.
Yeah, I wish I knew. I framed one of my, I bought Ashton a Pokemon cell a long time ago, and I see it on the wall still, with him back up in Ohio. And I often wonder if we shouldn't be like taking it out and putting it someplace safe, because I remember Jeff talking about how the off gas or whatever, the plastic it's painted on, so it's like they need to breathe, is what he always told me. Although I'm probably totally misspeaking on that. Jeff Wedding is in the chat. He could give us a full lecture on the do's and don'ts of storing your animation art. I know that, but that's the one thing I do remember. It's like if you leave it all trapped in a bag or probably under glass, it's not the best thing for it. But anyways, a fantastic piece. Thank you, Marcus, for letting
Wow,
everybody know.
Marcus. Wow, that was
Brutal. He's
pretty cutting.
absolutely
Yeah.
It's absolutely brutal. Jason wants just guest stars on the show tonight. We have 90 people watching on on Facebook and YouTube. So I see a lot of people were interested in this conversation. But Jason wants to get Jeff on here. He wants to get Bob Layton to pop in and comment on whether or not he created those X Factor costumes. We're not going to do that. I could talk to Bob anytime I want. But but anyways, let's keep
I'll
looking.
say too, we've got Drew Moss in the chat, who's a good friend of mine. You've got to get Drew on here, and you've got to get
Okay.
Drew in the mystery sketches, and you got to get Drew to OAX.
All right. Hey, I'm making notes. We one of the things that we talked about it, is getting more artists, just on the show, just for not even for art sales, just let's talk, about your, career, what you're working on, and because we don't do enough of that. There's been moments where we had an influx of like doing a lot of shows with artists, and that's kind of slowed down. The pandemic was great for that, from at that point in time, but the last couple of years with so many people getting back to work, it's been a little bit more challenging at times, to work it around in the schedule. See, Matt's given us advice on animation, everybody, so he knows a thing or two as well. He's got a decent animation art collection. So there we go.
Yeah,
Should smell like vinegar. Okay,
Matt's been really great too. A lot of good advice from Matt.
that's true. And Jason's a fan of Drew's as well. There we go. All right. Okay, back to the art. What's next? This is a piece by Mindy Lee. It's gorgeous. And look at that. And again, it's framed as it should
Yep.
be. Colors on this
Yeah.
thing are striking.
This is a great piece. This actually hangs above my wife's desk because it's one of the pieces she really enjoys. And I have to give Mindy a lot of credit. She's one of the first artists I commissioned. She's rep by Jason at Essential. Like I've said, she's got great redesigns, but I went for classic character costumes here. I know she's known for Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn, but she's just incredible in the level of like the vibrancy of the pieces. If you flash any kind of colored light in front of this piece, you can see how it's almost phosphorescent, especially with the gold pencil and gold paint she uses. Yeah, Matt, I knew you were going to mention the Vampire Hunter D because she's a big fan of that series too. And I think she has her own collection of Vampire Hunter D. But this was a piece I really was sought after for a while when I first started collecting. And I got to meet her at Comic-Con the year after I got this piece. And, Mindy loves a nice chocolate bar. So we were dropping off candy to her table. But it's a great piece. I love the like sort of like fire traveling around the piece and really enveloping both the characters. And then Scott just looks like absolutely, awesome. He's just like so stalwart, and she really captures like Slim in this, with the piece. And it's a beautiful, beautiful piece overall. It's also framed in a really nice gold frame that really picks up a lot of the colors. I spend so much time at the framer, and the poor woman, her name's Sally, I think hates me because of like the hours I spend there. But this is a really great piece, and it's so bright and wonderful.
Well, you're a good client, right? I mean, you get a lot of stuff framed, so I'm sure she's very patient with you. But no, this one needs to be on the wall. I can tell, and I'm sure that's why your wife likes looking at it every day. It's gorgeous. The color's great. Her aesthetic, her anatomy is really fun. I mean, yeah, what's not to love about this piece? I don't know. I mean, but
I
yeah,
do want to go back and get an Emma piece, Scott and Emma. I know folks are going to probably criticize me for that, that I would betray the duo, the fated lovers. But I have thought about going back to Mindy and getting a Scott and Emma just to see what that would look like.
Yeah, kind of a contrast piece to this one. That would be interesting. No, I always thought I liked it. I've said it numerous times. I used to own that Astonishing X-Men cover with Emma putting her fingers over Scott's face. I love that. I had that on the wall for about 3 years before I sold it. But no, that relationship was intriguing, and Cassaday was just so remarkable during that run. His covers were so fantastic, and I I loved getting a look at that thing. But anyways, I love this piece too, and I love the way the Phoenix effect is done as well. It's kind of like feathers. It's just it's unique in the way she handled it.
She has some more modern pieces of Phoenix where she really leans into that, where it's much more bird-like. It's not so evident here, but I think she's going to a convention in Boston, and so some of the recent advertising she put out is Jean, and it's almost like a peacock feather kind of motif, which is really great.
Very cool. Next up, something a little different.
Yeah, so another female artist. This is Caitlin Yarsky. I really like this piece because of how narrative it is. And just like it's something we don't see, right? These are heroic characters. We always see them fighting and sort of winning and or like struggling in a way. But this was much more emotional. And when Caitlin worked on this, she really wanted to push the narrative. And she didn't ask, she just did it. And I think this is a really stellar piece. She's working on Superman now, and she's got some other books out recently that are really great, like Living Hell from Dark Horse. But I love this piece because of the story it tells and what it talks about Scott and how his powers are sort of wild, but also how she portrays Jean here in that she's so powerful as the Phoenix that even this wound, like she can still be compassionate. And it is, another piece where I want to get another one from Caitlin and see this almost reversed in some way. Like, what would it be like with Scott comforting Jean or the Phoenix, really? And of course, it's got like an excellent background with the big X on it. So the composition is beautiful. But like folks are recognizing in the chat, the faces are beautiful. I do think that Scott here looks a little bit like the Monarch from Venture Brothers, which is not a dig. It's just something I just notice in my own mind. But it's a really wonderful piece. This is extremely striking.
No, I'm with you 100% on this one. It's very nice. And Marcus, you always go there. But no, this is fantastic. And I don't know. I'd have to look up Caitlin's work. I mean, I know I've seen it before. I saw Stingray and Jason talking about the Black Hammer, which I'm not familiar with, though I've seen it. So I'm kind of curious to see what her other work is like.
So Scott's 21 and 24 right now, I think, are Magic and Juggernaut. If you're reading the current issues.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Derek. No, that's a good one. Now next one's a little racy, I guess, in its own way. But let's see here.
Yeah.
Very colorful though.
This is great. So this is Layla Lee's. This is another piece I got around the same time I got the Mindy piece. I picked this up at Comic-Con, I think in 2022. Layla is known for Batman and Catwoman and some really racy stuff that, I think folks can go take a look at on her Instagram. But I really wanted to do something that was on the racier side. So I gave Layla 3 different options. This was option number 1, sort of portraying the Phoenix Force as a seductive power. There's a lot of like 1920s to 1940s alcohol advertisements that are very similar, where you have like for absinthe, it's like the green fairy and it's kind of entrancing and seductive. And so I thought, well, what better than having the Dark Phoenix kind of seducing Jean as Marvel Girl? And so, this is just terrific. And Layla's style is really like heavy holding lines, and so you really get these strong characters. And then she layered the colors on, and she does color from time to time. I don't think she does a lot, but this came out wonderful. It's one of the first pieces I ever got. It is nowhere near as racy as the second option. If you want to DM me, I'll tell you what that was. But this came out great, and I've always wanted to go back to Layla. She did a piece that was Catwoman eating a Batman ice pop. like from the ice cream truck, and it's melting, and she's kind of licking it, and I'm like, can I please get something like that with Cyclops? I think that would just be so clever. So it's great. And no, this isn't upside down. This is how it is.
Man, yeah, I can only imagine now what the other option might have been. And when you say Comic-Con, you mean New York Comic-Con, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, New York Comic Con. So I'm local to New York. I've been going the last 4 years. I cosplay most days, and then I'll usually spend one of the 4 days, and I just hang out in Artist Alley, and I'll pick up a bunch of pieces and hang out with artists. I've met Josh Cassara there, Jay Lee, Drew. I met there in person. Layla, I've met there. Mindy. I mean, like most of the artists that I've commissioned, I try to meet in person at some point. Even if it's been a couple years since I commissioned a piece, I'll stop by their table and say, hey, you did this piece for me. I still really love it. You know, here's what I like about it. And even that interaction is just so worth it.
Yeah, when was the last? I was in New York before the pandemic. I haven't been back since then, but it is a fun show. A lot of artists there. Now, next piece, Marcus will like the next piece too, because Cyclops isn't in
it. Yeah, kind of keeping with the theme. So this is Carla Wizgala. She is known for her burlesque style, and she does almost everything in a burlesque style. She had done a huge bevy of the, you know, female characters from Marvel, some of the male characters. And I said, but Carla, I've like gone through your entire Instagram and your portfolio online, and you've never done Marvel Girl. And she, in the email, was like, oh my God, you're absolutely right. And I said, I want like the best Marvel Girl you can possibly do. And this was something I picked up at New York Comic Con, and it sits on the wall to my left, so you can't see it on camera. But this is just such a great picture. And unfortunately, I didn't scan it, so every time I take a picture of it, it doesn't look great. But it's so beautiful in person, and her watercolor, you know, inky style, like just really works well with these types of subject matters.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I can tell from the photo that the colors are much more vibrant than this image. You know, we don't get to see the subtle, you know, use of the paint that she has in here, like in her shoulders. I mean, it's nice that there's some, you know, there's some blacks in it to kind of give, you know, like in her gloves and whatnot. But I always love it when you get a color piece and the artist just kind of goes, you know, does their own approach to doing the anatomy, like this, like even her dress, you know, on her shoulder looks great. I mean, but again, you can tell these colors are much more vibrant. And yeah, this will just, Nick, this is a reminder: scan before you run to the print or to the frame shop. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a whole era of pieces that just went right from the mail to the framer. I've stopped doing that. I also have learned a lot from how folks have talked about, you know, their scanning practices on CAF. And I have access now to a large document scanner that'll go up to 600 DPI full color without compression. So, you know, I'm sure, Bill, you saw some of the slides I gave you are, you know, 14, 15 megabytes. And so, you know, that justifies the CAF premium, is to get those pieces up there so that you can actually click on them and zoom in and everything. That's part and parcel of why I did it. And so, yeah, I learned the hard way, because there's a big tranche of my collection that I wish I had really high quality scans of.
Well, I mean, at least you get to look at them every day. But I'm with you on that. It's you know, we take what we can get on CAF, and you know, and things that we can get shared by collectors. But yeah, I trust me. Early on, when I was framing artwork, and I haven't framed a lot of pieces in the last 10 years, but I did the same thing. I would get a piece. For the longest time, I had a couple really nice X-Men pieces that I framed before I got a scan of them, and I always regretted it, because my scan on Comic Card Fans was like 600 pixels tall. something like that. And I could never really get a decent photograph of it. So I'm with you. I mean, that's it is what it is. Sometimes you're just too excited to get it, get it up on the wall. And again, you get to look at this one every single day.
Yeah, it's a great piece. I mean, I'd love to see someone cosplay this outfit, of course. Um, but also Carla's great. She goes to a lot of conventions, so I'm sure folks have walked past her booth. It's pretty involved. It's got like stripy wallpaper and a lot of like framed artwork that she hangs. Again, another artist I really want to revisit. I'm a huge Ghostbusters fan. Carla and I keep going back and forth on who I'd like to get next because I really want to see her take on Zool, but she really wants to do Gozer with the Hell Dogs or the Terror Dogs. And so like we're kind of at odds. She's like, I'll do Zool if you also get Gozer. And I'm like, all right, are you really just going to sell me for 2 pieces? But eventually.
Interesting. I was trying to see if I could find an image of one of her booths, but I wasn't able to do that while I was looking through here. But no, very very nice. Now this next one, there's got to be a story behind this one. So tell me
Yeah.
about it.
So this is Brian Kessinger. I think folks will probably know him from his work with Disney. He's been a Disney artist for I think 20 plus years. He's worked on like Treasure Planet and Atlantis. He's also I think like lead designer, or he has a very particular title for Blue-Eyed Samurai on Netflix. But he also has a creator-owned comic called Victoria and Otto, which is about a girl and her octopus, and it's steampunk themed. So I came across him a few years ago. I liked the Victoria and Otto look, but I also was looking for more of a variation on the X-Men. And this idea came to mind when I was looking at Victoria and Otto. Like, what if Jean's powers were kind of like psychic octopus arms and tentacles? And so Jean is always shown as sort of this elegant Victorian woman who's very calm, cool, and collected. And then Scott is kind of this bumbling oaf. So this was the first idea that I came up with. I have a second piece, which is a follow-on idea. And then I have a very cool third piece, but I haven't been able to get a slot with Brian just because of like just the timing. And, it's like, oh, I've got something else in the hopper. But I really love this. This was supposed to be entirely black and white. He just draws ink right onto the paper. But he went ahead and did the color on the optic blast and then the psychic tentacles. So this piece is also framed on the wall. You can't see it because it's way above me in the back, but I got a really nice bright red crimson colored Victorian frame for this.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a companion piece that I also need to get framed. But it's scanned. We scanned it first.
Awesome. Well, I think a lot of people in the chat would agree with the, Cyclops being kind of the bumbling, not quite assured of himself sometimes, whatever kind of guy. But I get it. No, it's just cool though. It's always interesting to ask an artist who's not known for doing certain work to see what they'll come up with. What have I asked in the past? I think I've gotten a few commissions from people who were more focused on like cartoon comic books and things like that, and just to seeing what they will do. But this is definitely unique in that you got a Disney related artist to do a piece like this.
Yeah, it's one of the one pieces where I like really dictated the narrative. I said like, this is what I'm really looking for. And Brian and his wife, I think that his wife really coordinates the commission list for him. They were extremely receptive to this. They really liked the idea. I really didn't get feedback other than they love the idea. And then the piece just showed up. So, and it is a fairly large piece. I don't know what the paper size really is because it's not 8.5 by 11, but it's not 11 by 17. I think it's like on some kind of scrap paper that he had lying around. So it's very weirdly set on the page, but it's a great piece.
Well, I agree. And this next one is very powerful as well. And you get that X like in the piece by Caitlin as well. But this one, you have some inset additional images here. But I love the approach to both characters in the center there. Very very powerful. I love the line work on it. And this is Tyrell Cannon, who I feel like Chris has picked something from Tyrell before, but I love this piece. Love the ink line work on this thing is just gorgeous.
So this is another piece where I really got surprised and kind of blown away. I picked this up in 2024 at New York Comic Con, and folks who know Tyrell, he's got his creator comic with his brother, Eris, which is coming out. He's done Beef Bros. He does the Schlub with Ryan Stegman and Kenny Porter. I found him through his Xtober book. So when a lot of artists do like a series for October, Tyrell did X-Men. I almost bought the Cyclops piece. It sold out from under me, but I had to get a commission from him. So he was doing pieces for New York Comic Con. He does his own show and tell and draw show on YouTube, which I highly recommend people check out, because the first sort of 40 minutes, he just goes through stuff he's picked up or that he's looking at, and he does a really good job of breaking the art down. He does a lot of work with Cake, the Chicago Alternative Comics Expo, which is wonderful. I'd like to go to that show, but I just said Scott and Jean, and, Tyrell went above and beyond. It's got the main image, like you said, and then it's got the insets. And when I picked this up at his table at Comic-Con, at New York Comic-Con, the first thing Tyrell said to me was, I've had to tell people I'm not selling this piece because they keep asking to buy it. And I was like, please don't sell it. But I love the main characters, and they're perfect Tyrell Cannon, sort of jumping out and big and muscly in a way. But the inset are in the X, the kiss, and then them standing like sort of on the moon, and like the sort of anime intro art, that really blew me away. And I definitely got a little misty eyed at Tyrell's table when I picked this piece up. So this really does a lot for me. That kiss at the top, like, he could have done that as the whole piece and I would have been happy. He could have done the lower inset as the whole piece and I would have been happy. But this goes above and beyond. And I actually went back and got 2 sketch cover commissions from Tyrell for my nephews, one for his bar mitzvah and one for his birthday. And those are absolutely insane. He did Doctor Strange and Black Panther for them respectively. And so I keep going back to Tyrell because he's not only a great artist, but he supports the community in a big way. So really just a wonderful piece. Yeah, thanks, Drew.
I agree. And Marcus, it was not me going back and trying to buy this over and over again. But I mean, I love it. I really love Tyrell's work on this piece. I mean, yeah, you did really well, and I could see why other people would want this one too.
Yeah, it's a big 11 by 17, and with that X, like, it jumps out. You see this piece from forever away. And he had it, I think, like on a little easel on his table at one point. And then he was just so nice. He took gave me an Xtober book. He did a little head sketch in there. He did Wolverine, which I should have like jumped on him and said no, but we can appreciate Wolverine from time to time. And he's just been so nice, and he was super accommodating with the sketch cover commissions. I sent him those books, and he's just been wonderful.
Well, I've been wanting to hear about this next piece for ever since I saw the image. So I'm going to go ahead and show this one. This is Tyler Boss, right? But this is kind of a haunting kind of imagery here. It reminds me of that one horror film, Shutter, I think was the name of it. But either way, I mean, what was the inspiration behind this piece?
So not really inspiration. When I asked Tyler, he had done a Daredevil piece that was kind of trippy and sort of 70s psychedelic. And I said, that's why I kind of found you. Can you do Cyclops and Jean Grey? And he wrote back, he says, are you okay if I just go like wild? And, that's what you want to hear from an artist. Like, I want you to like thrill me, like do it. If you're into it, like I'm into it. So there was no discussion other than that. And I kind of say this piece is like Cyclops and Jean Grey with a question mark, because to me this reads like maybe something on the astral plane, or perhaps that's not really Jean Grey, that's some kind of other psychic entity. I love how she's, sort of prying into his head, and she's this like kind of demony wraith that's on his shoulders. Yeah, psychic vampire, Rob. That's a great example. Great way to phrase it. And you don't really see Scott ever with the visor off and no optic blast. So you're like, is she holding that back? Is he alive? Is he dead? Yeah, is it Cassandra Nova? Like, you don't know. And I love how her eyes are just whited out, and she has like these insectoid kind of scorpion like fingers. Her hair is just dancing around the frame, and then it's on this haunting rocky scape, where it's all this sort of monotone red, and then it goes into the yellows and oranges. And so there was no real discussion of this piece except Tyler going wild. And I saw him at New York Comic Con last year. I got this piece the year before, and I said, I love this piece. And he was just like, thank you for telling me, because I was so afraid you were going to hate it.
Oh man, no, I what's the size of this piece?
This is, I think, 8.5 by 11 or 9 by 12. 9 by 12. It's smaller.
Perfect hang on the wall though.
Yeah, this one's scanned but not framed. So we're getting there. My framer, I'll admit, let me do one little tangent. So, folks know I like the 1966 Batman. Mondo, one of their first prints was Martin Aston 1966 Batman. They had two versions, the regular print and then the alternative. The alternate print has Eartha Kitt as Catwoman, and then it has a bunch of different Batman villains. The regular print is super hard to find at an affordable price point. And when I got a promotion a couple years ago, I bought that print. I finally found it, and then I got it framed. The framing cost more than the print, and the price tag was unbelievable. I thought my wife was going to divorce me in the framing shop.
But it was worth it, right? I mean, the frame probably was fantastic, and it just made it look perfect.
Yeah,
Where do you hang that one though?
Share that with folks. I think it's on my Instagram. It's insane. It's a huge print too. It's 18 by 24. So it takes up a huge piece of the wall. And it's just one of those things, like I said, it's my Grail poster print. Like, now I'm done. Like, I've really moved away from that. It's all art commissions and OA now.
Mm-hmm.
It's in this room, but not visible. I also have from Bottleneck Gallery X-Men #1, but I have the lenticular print. And so it, does the holographic moving. I've got to get that framed in a light box. Like, the list of what I've got to do, is absolutely insane.
Well, I get it. Well, you said earlier that you picked up Mondo prints, or maybe a few of them. So you're not. It's not a foreign thing for you. I did the same. Mondo was always tough to get back in the day. I forget. There was a piece I wanted to get for the kids. I can't remember what it was, but I managed to get it. But like you, I had to sit there at my computer, waiting for the drop, hitting refresh, hoping that and their site never crashed. That was always the good thing. But it did sell out. Those they sold out quick all the time. But yeah, that's pretty cool. So let me see here. Next piece is interesting as well. Let me go ahead and pull this image up, and it's nicely framed. I think you did a great job on the framing of this one. Is this one where you go into it with an idea, how you want to get it framed? Does your framer work with you on some of the concepts?
So I'll tell you. So I always bring my wife. She's been wonderful. So our framer's name is Sally, and I adore her. But Sally always has like an idea, and whatever that first idea is gets immediately shot down. And my wife usually shoots it down. But I always go in with a lot of like an image in my mind. Like I really kind of know before I even hit the framer that like I know what I'm going for. I've even picked out frames for pieces from artists that I don't have art yet from, which is kind of weird to say, but with this, I knew I wanted something to complement Abel's gold paint. He does this all by hand. This is one of the hardest commissions that I ever had to work for to get. Abel is a German artist. He's younger. He mostly does illustration for fantasy novels, and he really likes like Zelda and Dark Souls, Elden Ring. But he really did not want to do Marvel characters. He was like, he really refused multiple times. But I said, you do these fantasies, fantasy pieces like knights and witches and wizards. And I said, just think of them as those characters, and I think you'll be fine. And my wife calls this the Lolita piece because Jean's face is so childlike in a way. But this one also sits right up above my desk. And so I look at this one pretty much every day. Yeah, Abel Clare, he's from Germany. I don't know if he's really taking commissions. I will say this was an uphill battle, but this piece is absolutely beautiful. I wish I had a scan of it because no picture does it justice. All of that gold that you see, every gold line he does with like a gold paint pen, and this isn't even the most intense version of that he does. If you look at his Instagram, he really goes crazy. He will do entire sets of armor that have like what the Phoenix emblem on Jean's chest looks like, but it's the entire set of armor. So I really think this is a really singular piece. It's unique. It's rare. I will probably never get anything like this again. Although Abel does like Lord of the Rings, and he did sort of promise me that if I came back and asked for some Lord of the Rings characters, that he might be able to do that for me. But one day, add it to the list.
I think it's a beautiful piece. I really do. I love, I love the rich blacks in there. I love the gold. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, I love illustration and painterly works, and it's stunning. It's so well done. I'm glad you were able to convince him to do it.
Yeah, this is another one. Like in the car, I used to box, and I would go to boxing at like 5:00 in the morning, and so for the time difference, I'd be at the boxing gym at 6:30 wrapping up. And then it's like, oh, it's perfect time to text Abel. Like, let's see if I can convince him today. And I remember like one day I just hung out at the boxing gym for an extra 20 minutes, just trying to like convince him. I'm like, please just think of this a different way. Like, and I really had to say like, this is not for me to like, try to market or, somehow like, profitize or profit off of like your drawing. I just really want this for myself.
Well, it's fantastic. And this next piece is very spectacular as well. Let me switch over to that. Another color piece by Nathan Burr. And I mean, the detail, especially, Phoenix is drawn in such a interesting way. I mean, it's just all around just a fantastic piece. And I don't know what to say. I really like this piece a lot.
Yeah, Nathan does an incredible job. I think, he's perfected this style, this like gritty but hyper detailed, weathered looking style with, just like these deep backgrounds, a lot of reflections, or like some like bright spots and lens flares. And, you get that with like the sentinel hands that are coming up, and, each finger's got like a little jet in them. And then you've got Scott with that intense optic blast. Jean's got the fire coming out of her fingers. This isn't something where the character's powers necessarily overwhelm the piece. It also has that really nice internal framing that you see that he drew, with like sort of boxing in the characters. this again was just something I said, like, hey, do Scott and Jean, here are the costumes you can pick from. And then comes back this amazing 11x17 that's just absolutely phenomenal. And Nathan does a lot of streaming now. You can watch him work on pieces. You know, this is great. You know, it to me reads like great, like 80s heavy metal / like Witch Child or Witchblade kind of art. You know, it's something you'd see in like a sort of heavy metal magazine. And this is a great piece. I also love the frame on this one. It's like a, like kind of like a burnished metal that really goes well with this. And like Nathan, I think, does no wrong. He's got a really cool Green Goblin piece that, you know, gets shown a lot. And then he's done a lot more Cyclops and Jean since this piece has been made. So I really think that it's been wonderful to have this in my collection.
Well, it is pretty amazing. Now, so this was commissioned by you, and not something he had pre-done. I mean, with a piece like this, do you get a lot of process pieces from him, approval pieces, or you know? And I guess
Um,
what
I think I
percentage wise,
saw
you know?
it probably 75% done. You know, I think he sent me something like, hey, this is mostly done. I think maybe like he had to color in some of the background or maybe some of Cyclops, but
Mhm.
no. And I sometimes shy away from asking for process. I'll say, you know, and some of the artists that are in the chat that I've worked with know that, you know, they'll send me some thumbnail sketches. I'll admit now, if they don't already know, I obsess over it before I write back to them. I literally like stare at it, look at them a million times. I'll like look at it, close it out, look at it again, flip them around. I like will run polls with family members and friends. Like, all right, I think it's A or B. What do you think? It's tough sometimes. That's probably why I like the mystery sketches so much, so that you can just like, that's it. You don't get a choice. Like, this is just what's going to come and you're going to get it and it's going to be
Mhm.
great. But yeah, so sometimes I don't like to see the finished pieces before I get them physically. Like a couple times I've gotten like not necessarily bad scans, but like definitely not like evocative of what the original is going to be, and it kind of dampens your excitement and dampens your reaction when you get to see the finished piece in person. So definitely not hunting down the process pieces or even the thumbnails. I mean, sometimes it's good, especially if the artist is trying to do something different. Derek, in the piece that we showed earlier, slide 17 with Cap, definitely shared some. Ian and I have worked on some things where he's done some really good thumbnails. But yeah, I'll admit I obsess over it.
I don't blame you. I remember one time in my early collecting days, I commissioned Kamolo for the piece on the wall right there. Scott and Jean fighting off Sentinels that were being influenced by Cthulhu. You know, totally off the wall request. And you know, I remember his rep at the time, Enrico. You know, told me it'd be like 3 or 4 months before it got done. And so I waited till about month 4, and I emailed him, and but he had told me that I was going to see some process stuff, you know, leading up to it. So around month 4, I emailed him and I asked, how is it coming? I hadn't seen anything, and he's like, "Oh, it's all done," you know. I remember, freaking out because I figured the guy was going to do a good job, but it was one of those things where I thought I was going to get to look at something and do like you. And maybe I don't know. I wouldn't have shown it to any family members because nobody would have cared in my household. But I remember just seeing it and being relieved. Like, wow. He's like, "Oh, I emailed you that scan like 2 months ago." I'm like, "No, you didn't. You did not." But
Yeah,
you know how
it's
that
tough
goes.
convincing family members to like look at the art and care about it in the way that you do. You know, I've got like a small panel of people I share it with. I think they're sick of me doing that. I try not to. But like it is kind of an obsession. Like you want it to be great. And so I think about like, oh, is this similar to things I have? You know, whatever. But there are pieces that show up and I'm just absolutely blown away. I've got a couple in the hopper that are being worked on right now. Colton Worley is painting a piece for
Oh,
me.
cool.
It's supposed to be done today, he said, like Tuesday. I said, don't send it. Don't show me. Like, just mail it. Like, I paid you. We're good. Like, it'll show up and I'll love it. So, But one of the artists that we're going to talk about is Tom Fowler, and he's working on something for me. And I had such a vision in my mind, and I don't want to steal thunder from when we get to the actual slide, but I stay up at night sometimes wondering what Tom is working on. And I'm like, do I want a piece? Do I bother him? Do I like call him? And he's a shy guy. I've worked with him a couple times. I say work with, but like I've commissioned him, right? I call it work because that's why I like commissioning. It's like you get to share that experience where we're collaborating in a way. Yeah, like maybe it's more transactional to some artists, but I think of it as a friendship and we get to kind of romance each other for a minute. So but yeah, this Tom Fowler piece that's coming, it really keeps me up at night sometimes, but we'll talk about that later.
All right. We've seen some color pieces in a row here, so we can switch back to something a little more with some gray tones here. And the artist is Jim Toe.
Yeah. So Jim is great. Jim, and I wanted to show this one because it's part of the new batch. I originally got a very similar piece of the Jim Lee 90s, animated series Cyclops. And Jim went ahead and did this, like letterboxed sort of background. And if you go in the CAF Gallery, Cyclops he's got his hand behind him and he's pressed up against the wall. And you can kind of make out that the wall is a sign that says no more mutants. And it's direct on. Cyclops has a little flash of, optic blast in his visor. And I just could not get that out of my head, how wonderful it looked. It was so cinematic. I really love film. I, at one point was going to go to film school or do something in entertainment law with film. And so it really captured that cinematic look. It pops off the page with the characters. So, of course, I went absolutely insane and ordered another 13 characters in this style and asked Jim to do this for each of those characters. And I tried to stitch together all of the pieces into one slide, but I don't own Photoshop, and I didn't want it to ruin the scan and the resolution. But I asked for Astonishing X-Men Cyclops, and he went absolutely crazy. He did this piece. It's got like the optic blast twirls, which are more of a modern take on the optic blast. It's super powerful. You've got the motion in the background, and then you've got that thick border, and each of the pieces have that. And he does such a good job. There's a Magneto where it looks like he's literally pulling the electromagnetic spectrum behind him, or he's got Mr. Sinister, and the plumage is absolutely brilliant. There's Rogue, and she's flying through the air, and she just is in the most like exciting pose, and she looks like she's really flying. Gambit throwing the cards into the viewer's face. Nightcrawler emerging from, his teleportation, Beast and Colossus in these very powerful poses. And he's got this Emma, which I really wanted, which was Emma Frost. And she's kind of like slyly looking at each of at the viewer. And like, what's challenging about this is now I have 14 of them. And Jim was also very nice and threw in a thank you of Wolverine that actually says "Thanks, bub" on it, which is super cool. But I have no idea how I'd actually frame these, and I'm like kind of conflicted about whether I frame them individually or I try to stitch them together with one mat into a large piece. Do I do it vertically? Do I do it horizontally? Do I do 2 columns, 3 columns? Where do I put Cyclops versus the other Cyclops? Do I do heroes and villains? Do I do heroes against villains? Do I need to order more so that then the numbers match? I don't have a Juggernaut. I don't have a Professor Xavier. I don't have an Iceman. So there's like, and Jim now is doing these watercolor versions of these kind of smaller pieces. And man, it's really hard not to say, oh, could you just do this whole set, but now do them in watercolor? This is great. And so I would encourage, I have this as a separate gallery on my CAF simply because these were so striking. And this is just one of those ones. And I ordered them in batches. I didn't do all 14. I ordered 4. He sent me pictures of them. I wanted another 4. He sent me pictures of them. And then I ordered another 4. And then I had the original Cyclops, and then he gave me the Wolverine at the end.
Well, that's fantastic, and it's a clearly a dilemma for you, but one I know you can solve. And, money and
It's an
time to
addiction
solve
sometimes.
anything.
I go back to Carl Choi's advice, like keeping a list. The list has helped me a lot in recent time. And I have my list separated into folks I'm working with. So it's like paid or ordered. Then I have like a watch list, and that's a lot of artists that I've seen work from that I enjoy, but I'm not sure if I'm really ready to like commit. And then there's the Grail level list, and that list, is shorter, but it's like, here's the ones that are like the ultimates. And there's a couple artists on there that don't even take commissions. And it's like, I will never, ever, ever, ever get pieces from them, but I try really hard. There's one particular artist. I comment on every piece he ever posts. I email him. I was on his Patreon till it closed. I've tried really hard, and just, I know it's that uphill battle.
Yeah, well, not artists have bad commission experiences as well. But before we move on to this next piece, I thought it was cool that you mentioned the dynamic between commissioner and artist, and PJ, new member of Next Comic Art, I would add, said that the client artist romance is real. So there you go. It happens, right? And sometimes it's not a right fit too. I've been turned down for commissions in the past. I mean, in the my early days of like thinking about like what I wanted, and the artist was like, "Nah, I don't want to draw that." And that's okay. It happens.
You've mentioned too, and thanks, PJ. And I'm really looking forward to seeing, more work from you on Next Comic Art. Jiggy knows how much of a fan I am of that whole team. And Jiggy and I have a little romance going. I don't know if this will show, but Jiggy sent me this, and it says, well, there we go. So it says Cyclops was right. And he sent this on one of the pieces he sent me, and I have it posted to my monitor, so I look at it every day. But
well, I actually got a call from Jiggy last night, so I feel like he's two-timing us, Nick.
Yeah, well, he knows how he's playing the field. I got some Instagram DMs before the show, like good luck, and we're so happy for you. And I told him, I said, Next Comic Art's going to get featured, but yeah, he's two-timing us. But to PJ's comment, it is kind of a romance. Like, it's kind of like a first date. Like, you're always going on that first date with artists, especially when you send in a commission request. Like, we'll talk about it on a piece with Josh Cassara. Like, wow, we had some really bad second and third dates, but like by the fourth date, we got married, and it was really great. So, yeah, come on.
Okay,
I mean, listen, Jiggy and I were at New York Comic Con last year. I came up to that booth, and even though I was dressed up, I mean, we really we made eyes. It was good.
Well, I see a Mannix piece on the back wall, which I think that's a mystery sketch, right?
So that is actually the first mystery sketch I ever got. And
what kind of luck is that? I remember. Did you watch the live show?
Yes.
The Friday beforehand, when because Mannix was painting that. He was like in a hotel lobby, if I recall, and was working on that piece. And the whole time I was jealous, of course, because and and for you to have that be your first mystery sketch, a Mannix done to that level of detail, you must have been pretty happy.
So you guys are gonna hate me because I've gotten Mannix multiple times.
Well, the next piece is a Mannix, so that's why that was my segue into that one.
Yeah.
But okay, so hate away.
This Mannix, so I ask for mystery sketches because in May it works for my birthday in July, and in November it works for Christmas. So I just tell everybody, don't buy me anything, buy a mystery sketch, and here's the character list you can choose from. And so I've gotten probably another, oh gosh, 5 or 6 pieces that are just gifts, right? Maybe even more than that. And there's another one on here, and I wanted to make sure we featured some mystery sketches because I really do believe they are like part of the heart and soul of CAF and Comic Art Live, etc. But that was the first piece. My mom ordered it. Thanks, folks. You got to have good family members. And I remember you revealed it on the show, and I didn't know who it was for because I didn't know she had bought it. But then you said where it was going, and you mispronounced my hometown, and
Oh
I was like,
no.
"Oh, there's no way it's not that's mine now." Like I knew immediately.
What did I say? I don't even remember.
So I'm from Schenectady originally,
Yeah.
and yeah, and so you're like you were trying to read it out, and I don't know if it was just like written out
I would
weird
have
on the
thought
back of the piece, but
it must have been because Schenectady I would have pronounced right, but so it must have not been, or maybe I didn't have the right glasses on that. But wow.
yeah. But it's the birthplace of Dr. Otto Octavius, which is like the one cool thing I like to
Hmm.
always tell people. But as soon as I heard that, I knew it was mine. And so like Christmas comes and I'm like, thanks, mom. Like, not that I didn't already see this. And so I try and it's really hard to like both watch and not watch the mystery sketch unboxings,
Hmm.
especially if you're gonna find out something's in there for you. But Mannix is great. I met him also at New York Comic Con last year, and that piece is his show banner, and like absolutely terrific. And so that's in a big chunky purple frame. I know you've used that for the mystery sketches. You show that picture in the
Hmm.
advertising. So like to have that as your first, like, sorry guys, I'm really sorry, Caffers. Like, you
Well,
know.
you're in an elite club because Daniel Goodwin said that his first mystery sketch was a Mannix as well. Uh, so you're not the only one, but that's the beauty of the mystery sketch. And speaking
So
of moms, I got an email from my mom today. She watches the shows and everything. She thinks I'm a huge celebrity. Hi, mom, if you're watching right now. She forwarded me this email that said something like "new Marvel Comics hero, Beta Ray Bill," and she emailed me, Mom, I love you. She emailed me asking me if they named the character after me. I'm like, Mom, Beta Ray Bill's been around for a long time. She goes, "You've been around," and so her reply back to me was, "You've been around for a long time too, Bill." My mom's 87, so she hasn't read a lot of comics, but she loves me too. Has she bought me any art yet though? I think your mom's got me on that one.
Well, so I'm gonna really make people mad. So she got Mannix twice in a row.
Okay,
Yeah.
you are
So
making everybody mad.
yeah,
Or
no,
they're going to be talking to your mom about commissioning, getting some mystery sketches for them. That's having
so
her.
you showed this on the unboxing. That RoboCop piece is also mine that she bought for me. So that's in my CAF
Ah,
gallery too. And everyone who has a Mannix piece will know this. They do not scan well at all. And so like you can never really have a Mannix or like experience a Mannix unless you see it in person. And yeah, so let's just get to the next Mannix
yeah.
because
Let's
it's
take a
really
look at that one. Yeah, we've been talking. We haven't showed it. Here you go.
yeah. Yeah, Mannix is unscannable, Stingray, and I will say I commissioned this from Mannix for Comic Con 2024. Mannix has been just crushing it on all of the cover commissions, and it, I love Astonishing X-Men. That's probably one of my favorite runs. This cover is one of my favorite. For a lot of reasons, and I'll bring up the significance of that later when we talk about my John Cassidy piece. But I asked Jiggy, I was like, "What do you think about getting this?" And this was like Mannix was really into it, and like this is just a great. It's not even a huge piece. It's not 11 by 17, but Mannix just aced this, and so I also like the fact that Mannix will not do another recreation of this cover. So it makes it really, really, really special. This is, I think, one of the best teams of the X-Men. I think this is one of the best covers. Of course, folks who know that they had two versions of this cover because Colossus was dead at this point, and then they hadn't revealed him, and then they had to do a second cover to reveal him. So there's both a cover of this without Colossus and with Colossus. And he even threw in, Kitty's little dragon, Lockheed, and just the faces are perfect, the costumes are perfect, Cyclops is perfect. This is a special piece for me.
Yeah. No, I love this one as well. It's fantastic. I mean, uh, he's been doing some pretty amazing cover and interior kind of recreations of late, and man, he's absolutely amazing. And I don't know what to say. You already know all this because you probably have more Mannix artwork Mannix's family, just because of all the pieces you've gotten. That's absolutely incredible luck. But
I really, there's two things. So I had emailed Jiggy a while ago and I asked him about X-Men 137, which is Scott and Jean on the moon. Pretty infamous cover. And I didn't hear back. No worries, Jiggy. And someone got it for San Diego Comic-Con. So I know somebody had already commissioned it by the time I had emailed Jiggy. But I am super jealous because that was probably the second cover I would have gone for. Hey, if somebody's out there, like I said, always be commissioning because you may miss that opportunity. But I also would love a piece from Mannix's daughter. So if I send, some nice mail, maybe I could get a Cyclops piece, perhaps? Question mark, Jiggy / Mannix.
Yeah, I hear you. It's I don't know what to say, but yeah, getting to see Mannix stuff like Stingray mentioned, it's unphotographable or scannable. You can never get the colors right, right, and without even with tweaking them in Photoshop afterwards, because I'm sure that red just explodes off the page, and as do most of the colors on there. But the pieces where he has some recent ones that have like pink on them, it's just so vibrant. I don't understand how he's able to keep the colors so stark like that. I mean, I know if I had a watercolor set in front of me and I was painting in only a one color, it wouldn't come out as vibrant as he achieves that. In these pieces, they're just so darn amazing. Oh, Jiggy says to put in a good word.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you,
yeah.
Jiggy.
Lance is the Ulan plug, right? That's so true, Matt. I have an Ulan piece actually that Lance picked up for me in San Diego that I have not posted to CAF. I do need. I don't think I've scanned it yet. That might be why. I'll make sure that I post it tomorrow. But yeah, Lance is the guy with the angle on getting Ulan artwork. That is for sure. But yeah, congrats on this one. Congrats on the RoboCop. I thought that was an awesome one too, because for me, I get the pleasure of handling most of that art too, Nick. So I get to see it as it comes through, and yeah, that was all those pieces were really nice.
Yeah, there's just terrific, and like you said, it's unscannable. I have to give Lance credit; he helped courier this to me, so he gets a lot of credit there too.
Lance is the best. Now, next up, Robbie Rodriguez. Let's see here.
Oh yeah, so this is Cyclops and Marvel Girl. This is what my wife calls the Disco Girl piece. This sits above her desk with Mindy's piece and Drew's and Von Randall's. But, Robbie does Ghost Spider / Spider Gwen. You pay extra for that, by the way, folks, if you're ever thinking about that. But I asked Robbie when he was at Cadence to do this piece, and this is another framed one. I rushed this right into the framer. I love this piece because that optic blast cuts the whole frame. It literally looks like he ripped the paper to achieve that effect. And then you have just this terrific Jean kind of floating in the air with her go-go boots and then the big balls of energy behind it. And it is a really vibrant piece. And this just came out so well. And even though, Scott's in a dark, almost black costume in this one, this piece pops so hard, and just you could stare at this piece and your eye is constantly moving around it. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's a really wonderful piece. And I love the way Jean's mask isn't like over accentuated on her face. It's got the white paint to kind of highlight all the characters. And I like its roughness. It's not super refined. You can kind of tell he played with where the characters were positioned on the page. And I think that makes it a much better product because you can tell he put work into it. And it doesn't need big background. It's got that energy and that color to it, and it gives it a nice depth. But this piece is awesome. I've never seen somebody draw the optic blast like that. So it really came out really, really well.
Yeah, I agree. I love the composition on this with especially the play between the two figures. He's taking chances covering Jean up, right? And a lot of times you want to see the the female figure up front, but he's done such a great job, you know, in the way he's handled it. I love it. And
Yeah, and I think too, a lot of folks, and thank you, Daniel. I really appreciate that. I really do invest in the pieces and want to be able to be a good advocate for the artists. Um, I will say I probably a ding against me is that I do mix the costumes. I'm not super tied to them kind of corresponding, right? Because Jean's not really in Astonishing X-Men. I think she's in maybe 2 different pages, and she's not in one of them. Arguably, it's not even really Jean, but I give them a list, and I love that Marvel Girl outfit. There's just something about it. Its simplicity and how nice it is as an outfit. It screams classic, right? And then I do like the Astonishing X-Men costume, and Robbie does a really good job. He just painted it in white instead of having the gold liner on it. But it's got the cuffs. There's a Richard Pace piece actually in my CAF gallery that I commissioned him to do during a live stream that he had, and he took 3 different versions of Scott and combined them. So it has a big, heavy inspiration from the Astonishing X-Men outfit, but then incorporates like the booty shorts, and then it's got some more of like the kind of weird stuff that he has on his boots in some of the outfits. That's like a costume amalgamation that really is cool. But in lieu of featuring that, we went with some other artists in this.
Yeah, and then the next piece would have been the destruction of Captain America, but we've already shown that one, so we can switch over to this beauty, and this is I think, well, it's clearly framed. It's from Von Randall. This was a mystery sketch too, right?
Yeah, so this is one that my wife got me, and if Jiggy and Von are listening, I need a companion. I actually need like multiple companions of this piece, with different characters, because this came out so well and is so powerful. I unwrapped this at for Christmas and was just blown away. It's another great piece. Scott is so powerful in this. You're totally right, Matt. The optic blast is almost ethereal. Like it's in a way like almost translucent. The way Von did it on this piece. I love that you get the classic, like standing on the Sentinel head. I'm trying to move away from that with some pieces and being a little bit more prescriptive about the number of Sentinels included in pieces, but Von just crushed it. And of course, everyone knows that I got another Von mystery sketch, which I obsess over. But this one is just totally excellent. It's super powerful. It doesn't have Von's sort of that like color outline that he's been doing on pieces, which, I think, for this, it really works without it. But I need a Jean and Emma, Magneto. I'm going to need some more X-Men here, because I'd love to have like a whole set. And I know Von's been working really, really hard, but maybe one of these days. Yeah, intense. Von is so good. Yeah, Von's excellent. And I met Jiggy, Von, and Mannix at Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con last year. And I feel really bad because Von was working really hard on something, and I didn't take an extra couple minutes to talk to him. And I feel really bad about that.
Von's awesome. He's such a nice guy. I love his art. And yeah, you did pretty well with that Adam West Batman. And a wonderful job on the unboxing, by the way. You know that.
That's my first unboxing, so a CAF first.
Yeah, no, you had there was some production value in there, not just in the costume. I love the way you kind of zoomed out on it. I mean, and that right before you unboxed it, I mean, you put some thought into it, Nick. It goes back to the almost RISD days that you didn't have, but the creativity is there. And Stingray wants more unboxings, Nick. So there you go.
We're probably in a secret kind of competition, because I know Stingray's been doing more unboxings. So Newell posted a picture of himself on Instagram with some really nice lighting, and I said, "Oh, are you like getting your own CAF show now?" So there's a little bit of a friendly competition there, but yeah, more unboxings. I think I've got that list of characters for more mystery sketches, and every time I think of it, I'm like, oh, I got to add that character. Like somebody was talking about the Matrix, and it's like, oh, I should do Agent Smith. Like I haven't seen that. Like let's do something like that. So it just grows and it becomes like this obsession. But I go back to like my lists, like I've got like Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China, and we're not even talking about the cool ones that came in this set. So like I got my wife the Jessica Fletcher piece. I have a piece still coming from artist
That's right. I
Bullpen.
forgot about that one.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm obsessed with mystery sketches, and I would encourage folks, if they have a birthday or a wedding anniversary or, a bar mitzvah, just ask for a mystery sketch. It's like the best gift. You cannot go wrong.
Oh, I completely agree. A lot of the ones I get during the November Comic Art Live, I use as Christmas gifts. Right? I mean, why not? It's it's a fair price, and you're going to get something interesting and unique. And what's better? What's a better gift than original art, right?
Yeah.
I always tell people, that's something you can share with your family because everybody appreciates art one way or another. There's not too many passions or collectibles out there that you can share with family members, right? Not everybody's gonna be into a statue, not everybody's gonna be into a comic book. But come on, a piece of art, especially if it's framed, you can put it on the wall. It's hard to argue that that's not a good gift. Now, next up, well, let's just go ahead and show it because we're diverging. Is
Yeah.
this Stingray's influence on you?
Yeah. So, Stingray really asked that I, show some more breadth of my collection. And so I didn't want to just do Cyclops 100%, even though I was going to torture you all, mostly you, Marcus. We were going to do nothing but, um, Cyclops art. And thank you, Vaughn. I really do. I am guilty for not spending more time with you at Comic-Con. Your work has just been insane and wonderful. And that Batman piece, I have some special plans, I think, about what I'm going to do with that. So really appreciate it. And so, continuing with the theme of mystery sketches, I got this from Paul Lee from Splash Page and Mark. This is Locke Lamora, and this is a character from my favorite novel fantasy series. It's called the Gentleman Bastard series, but it starts with the Lies of Locke Lamora. And what I love about this piece is it's about a gang of thieves who really do a lot of like con artistry, and they dress up as different characters and they impersonate people. And the author does not give a long breadth of description of what Locke actually looks like. And his physicality changes a lot through the series. And I was like really worried about like what I was going to get in a mystery sketch. And this came back from Polly, and it's insanely good. And Mark said this was like one of his favorite pieces that came out of that mystery sketch cycle. And the like just everything about it, the line work, the detail, the sly look on his face, the pose, the fact that he's in the period clothing. I mean, like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, this exceeds all expectations. And that's the magic of the mystery sketches, is you can really tap into something unique and special. And I don't even know if in my own mind, this is what Locke looks like. But it definitely is a great piece of art. So you can get something out of mystery sketches, which you don't even expect. And as my sister will tell you, yeah, Marcus, I got to do a D&D Cyclops. There's actually an artist who does a lot of that, and but they don't take commissions. So, but long story short, this is my favorite series of novels. It's by an author named Scott Lynch, who I've met a few times. He signed a number of my novels, copies of his novel that I own. And he was in Brooklyn a couple months ago, and I almost brought this with me, but I was so scared of getting it damaged on the train that I left it home. Mm-hmm. And, but like, I just wish he could see it in person sometime. So I'm going to make that work. And we ended up actually commissioning coins that look like the coins from the novels, and shared that with the author. But this is one of those unique things that you know, just you tap into that's so special. And I highly encourage anyone. Yeah, my sister, she's in the chat today. She helped consult on, you know, the fashion, the staging, the lighting. You know, we talked ad nauseum about the slides, but you know, going to meet your art, you know, the authors and the artists that you like is part of the collecting thing. It's part of the privilege. And you know, I would encourage everyone to read that series. If you want, I will buy you a copy, because I literally buy everyone a copy. Bill, if you'd like one, I will buy you the whole series. It's 3 books. We've been waiting 15 years for book 4, but it's coming supposedly, I believe. So yeah, Locke is one of my favorite characters. I've played D&D and played as Locke Lamora in some fashion, time and time again.
That's awesome. You know, I had to. There's a question from Drew Moss, who's not familiar with what mystery sketches are, and Drew, we've been doing them. I think we've gone through 7 cycles already. We have a virtual con on Comic Card Fans called Comic Card Live. It's every May and November. We've been doing it since the pandemic, so we've had 11, I guess we've done so far, and in the last 7, we've done mystery sketches. And what a mystery sketch is a collector purchases a 9x12 commission where they get to state which character they want, but they don't know which artist they're going to get. And Comic Card Fans and Comic Card Live, we go out and we work with reps, individual artists, and I think the last show we had around 80 artists in total that were participating in it, and we sell 9x12 options and also sketch cards now. And so it's just fun, right? Because you don't know which artist you're going to get, but you get to at least pick the character. And by and large, everybody that picks one up is getting something from an artist that they might not have commissioned before. We do unboxings of the mystery sketches when they come in to me directly, or sometimes I'll have the rep on with me and we'll do an unboxing before the rep mails the artwork out, so that we give everybody, the opportunity to see the artwork that's created as part of the mystery sketch. And it's rewarding for all of us. I think it's rewarding for the buyers, and it's certainly rewarding for the artists that that are selected to work with the mystery sketch, because they get their work seen numerous times, typically in the lead up before it gets in the collector's hands. And then most collectors are on CAF, so those works end up on Comic Card Fans. And we have a new art type for mystery sketch, so you can tag it properly within the site. And again, it's a fun twice annual event that we do. That is I've said it numerous times. It's one of the most fun things we get to do, because it's something that we created, and I love participating in it. So there you have it.
Yeah, I said earlier we got to get Drew. We got to get Drew in the mystery sketches, because he does such great work. And if for anyone, we're going to look at some of Drew's work later, but a couple of the collectors that have been on recently have been collecting a lot of Legion superheroes. And I know Drew has been working with 2 different commissioners on individual pinup pieces for each of the Legion characters, like Lightning Lad and some of the other ones. I'm not quite familiar with those characters, but they are some of the best pieces of work I've ever seen. And those collectors, I was in the chat like a couple of weeks ago, like lighting it up, like, have you seen these pieces? You have to look at them. Like, they are just incredible. Like, and all the backgrounds are unique to each of the characters. So I think anyone who got Drew in a mystery sketch would probably be like quadrupling the value of what you actually pay for a mystery sketch. I mean, I think that's the benefit too, is, CAF is connecting patrons with artists, and they're getting an opportunity where they really get a piece of work that I think is, far in excess of what they actually pay for it.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, they're $200 through the 9x12s, for instance. And I always feel like the majority of the artists, send back a $275, $300 piece, or sometimes even more. Right. And, it's fun. I mean, everybody realizes, it's a unique opportunity, and for us, it's great, because we're helping collectors be good patrons in the hobby. and that's always a good thing. It's fun when you get to see, that, or feel that you had a hand in artwork being created, and that's always a true joy. And and you got that piece from Mark. I hate to say it, I'm not familiar with half of the artists that Mark reps, and then and the majority of the artists that participate from Splash Page Comic Art are the ones that I'm not familiar with. So I get to see names and hear names and see artworks that I might not normally get to see, and uh, yeah, and I love it. I mean, it's really a lot of fun. And I saw Marcus say he got me a book, and I'll never read it. Look, Marcus, it is so close. I didn't even have to lean too far to pick it up. I have started reading it. It is right here. Will I read the whole book? I can't promise you that, but it is right there. I'm not going to return it or do anything weird with it when I'm done with it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll just say too, Drew's mentioning Cosmic Boy. I sent Drew a vial of that super dark black ink that's like 99%, light, absorbing,
mhm.
for reasons, for a commission I hope that we'll get to do one day. But he's using it already. So I said, save some of that ink for me. And then, just the mystery sketches are great. I will say it definitely opens you up to artists you would not normally commission. That's the point, right?
Exactly.
I with Polly, like I wouldn't have thought to find him, and now based on that Locke Lamora piece, like there is a day that will come when I will be calling him and I will be saying, I need the whole cast, I need this scene, I want you to do the whole thing, like. And that's the joy of it. Like you get these crazy ideas, and like it just they burn a hole in your brain, and that's the love of it. Like you just become like this love struck kind of person. We talked a lot about love today on the
Yeah,
stream,
it
Bill.
has come up quite a few times.
It is so romantic. I think you bring it out in me, Bill, because we both love the
Hey,
same character.
that is true. That is, hey, I'm happy to facilitate in any way that I can. The next artist, let's see here, Tula, right? Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
this
So I
is
think, didn't
gorgeous.
she just win an Eisner?
Uh-huh. Yes, she
Yeah.
did.
So this is one of the like, and I don't at the time you don't feel like you're lucking out, but like in retrospect, to get a Tula Lotte commission is like just incredible. And Tula asks you for 5 options, which was very new to me at the time. So I gave her 3 X-Men choices and 2 Star Wars choices, and she picked Leia as Bosch. And I have the Mike Mitchell print of Bosch's helmet, or Leia as Bosch in the helmet. But Tula actually took like an extra, 8 to 12 months on this, because this was right after Carrie Fisher had passed away, and she wanted the likeness to be absolutely on point. Um, and she did this pose with the thermal detonator and like the gaffy stick, or Bosch's, spear, and just like the way Tula's able to capture the ethereal nature of characters, but then also still capture the detail of their costumes. And Bosch's outfit is like exceptionally detailed. This piece is just absurdly good. If you look at it, it's crinkled and warped from all the paint and ink. So it actually has like depth to it. I have a real soft spot for Bosch, talking about like love and what, like going undercover into a gangster's, hideout to save the one you love, like that speaks volumes. And like, you know, like we all love Star Wars, and we're all fans of the movies, but like when she whips that helmet off and she says like, oh, it's someone you love, like, and he goes, oh my God, it's you, Leia. Like, that's powerful. And so this piece really syncs up with that. It's so beautiful. The look is beautiful. It captures Carrie perfectly. R.I.P. I don't even know what to do with this. Like, I want to get it framed. I want to get it framed like Bosch's armor. So I want to get like a brown leather and then get some metal. But like, just the mere thought of that, like, it probably far outweighs the price that I paid for it in terms of the framing. But this is a really singular piece. I thought if we were going to show something that's not Cyclops, I had to show this piece. it's a huge 11 by 17. It's absolutely wonderful. It's beautiful. The scan doesn't even pick up the tones between the blues and purples in it. It kind of gets washed out and it looks kind of like a singular blue or gray, but there's some purple in there that you don't see. Yeah, I think anyone should get a Tula. Like, she's just wonderful. And she was absolutely wonderful at her table. Like I said, she took some extra time to do this piece, so I wasn't able to pick it up in person. And she was so delightful about it. She said she would post it to me, and she did. But she also, I purchased a print from her, and she did a full-on remark for my sister right there at the con. And like, yeah, Marcus, you're picking up on something. I probably have, a thing for helmets that have that singular visor. It's probably why I also like RoboCop. But yeah, Tula just hit this like I just don't even know what to say about this piece other than it is so stellar. It is beyond any expectation, and I don't even feel bad about the other 4 options that she didn't pick because this was so good.
Well, it's fantastic. I love her work a lot, and no, this was a good choice. But now I think we're the final pieces, and we have 8 more. They are all X-Men related. So that was our brief, moment where you could exhale. Now we're going right back into to the X-verse here with a piece by Ian Cinco, who is in the chat.
So, this has been seen on Ian's Instagram, but it's not on CAF yet. I am going to post it later, tonight or tomorrow morning. Ian did some work for Matt and for Stingray, and I was like, nope, I have to immediately contact this person. And we actually live quite close to each other. So when I finally pick these up, it's going to be probably over dinner and drinks, on me for Ian, because he does such great work. And getting back into the theme of X-Men, Ian's worked on this Magneto piece, and he's working on a Scott and Jean and Emma for me. But this I couldn't be happier with. Magneto is one of those characters that, are you going to portray him as a hero, as a villain? Is it just going to be lifting a Sentinel carcass out of the ground? But Ian did something really spectacular here. I think he captures not only the power and the raw energy of Magneto, but the piece itself has sort of both a modern and sort of 1960s feel to it. So it captures like this historical look of like what X-Men really is about, but also is juxtaposed with like the futuristic looking city in the background. I also think that it is perfect comic art in that, a lot of comic books, you're not just drawing the characters doing fun things all the time. You're drawing objects over and over and over again. I own the How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, and like half that book's about drawing, like desks and chairs and, like guns and things, that are in the background over and over and over again. And like that rocket, I saw the rocket and I was like, you can just stop. Like, don't even draw Magneto now. Like, just do the rocket. And I think about like the narrative associated with this, and it's like, I could hear Magneto saying like, look up and weep, or like, look up in despair, or hail me, the children of the atom. And that rocket is just like, oh, is that like a nuclear device he's going to drop on a town? Like, that's part of why Magneto is so bad. And then of course he captures the magnetic field bubble that allows him to fly. He's got the shrapnel and metal pieces and girders and what looks like, a ship and a piece of a building and whatnot. And it so draws your eye around with all the circular framing, but as well as the outline on the rocket. And then you've got Magneto, and this is no slight against Ian. It's like, it's almost like you don't even need Magneto. That's how good this piece is. I also think of, that's right, Derek, like, what's it in the Konami game? He goes like, haha, X-Men come to die. So, I really just, this is just such a terrific piece. And, Ian's painting style is terrific. If you follow him on Instagram, the murals he does, his book that he's working on right now. And then of course he's got, I'm going to mispronounce it, but it's the erotica. And I'm just so excited to even get my hands on that once we meet up. So Ian did a really good job here, and I wanted to show some stuff that hadn't been revealed on CAF before.
Yeah, I got a copy of Erotica, and it's freaking amazing. I've only gotten through maybe a third of it just because there's just so much amazing art in it. But no, Ian, I picked up a piece from Ian at Comic Art Live, and love his work, and he's awesome. And we need to get Ian on camera once or twice more before the end of the year. That'd be fun.
Yeah,
But I
Ian
love this
does a
piece
great
too.
job.
There you go. He'll draw in Erotica over drinks. There you go.
Yeah, Ian's like in the town over from me, or he's in Brooklyn, and I literally was at a Daredevil viewing party in Brooklyn, and I was driving home, and it must have been like 11:30 at night because that show premiered at like 9 o'clock on Netflix. And so then, like, by the time you like cash out and then you're driving home, and I drove past one of Ian's murals, and I literally like almost crashed my car trying to take a picture of it from inside the car at night with the flash on, like to text Ian at midnight to be like, I saw the mural, but like I should have just pulled over like a reasonable human being. But you know, maybe I'd had a couple drinks. So
Yeah, that's not something you want to get a DUI over, no matter what. But you seem to be close to getting into trouble a lot, Nick, when you're in your car.
I didn't think this was going to be a car show, but yeah.
Exactly, Marcus. Once again, that's a reckless Cyclops move on your part. So
Yeah, Marcus, you bring up a good point. So anybody who's an artist or otherwise that's watching, I have yet to get a piece where there is a crashed blackbird in the background. And I love the blackbird. I went to the Aerospace Museum in DC with a friend of mine for the Music Arts and Gaming Festival a couple years ago. And he brought me there because he knew how much I like Cyclops and the blackbird. And we saw the SR-71. And like every picture of me is like in front of it, all proud. And like I didn't have the visor and I should have brought it with me. I don't even think I owned it at that point. But like I have 1,000 pictures in front of that plane. And like if I could touch it, that would be great. But yeah, I need a Cyclops I need Cyclops walking away from an explosion of the crashed blackbird, like kind of like cool guys don't look at explosions. Yeah.
well, it could be any character that got to walk away from Cyclops crashing the Blackbird. That would be fine, having the Blackbird in the background. See, now I'm gonna have to try to beat you to it.
Yeah,
I
that's the
once had
thing.
I did actually commission an artist once that had and I didn't ask for the Blackbird, but it's Scott and Jean, and I don't have this one, but I can get it back. Scott and Jean fully painted, and the silhouette of the Blackbird tied them together, and it was freaking awesome. And it's not in my possession at the moment, but I've always wanted to get it back, and they said I could get it whenever I want it. It's not on CAF, but yeah, very cool piece.
You
But
got
no
to get it,
no
Bill.
crashed Blackbird though.
Yeah, it's funny because I know Steven's in the chat too, and I think he's been commissioning a lot of the Savage Land Scott. And I
Mm.
even saw Carla Wigzala, who we looked at earlier, did Savage Land Scott, and I'm like, who's commissioning all this Cyclops art? And like Mannix did another Cyclops piece, and I'm like, you guys got to stop. Like I got to keep now commissioning things because it's like the competition's getting real fierce out there.
It is. I don't understand it, but I feel vindicated. I feel like the club has gotten bigger. Yeah, but I keep staring at the next piece. Very nice colored piece. I've got to show it because here, let me highlight this one.
Yeah,
It's
so
it's so nice.
this is terrific, and I want to give a big shout out to the Green Room and ECR in Spain because they have been like such a good agent, friend, representative, nice person, like confidant, wartime consigliere, like the whole thing. They helped put this together with Bellin for Comic-Con, a couple years ago. And this is based on an Adam Hughes piece of Bruce and Selena kissing. And when I asked for Scott and Jean, ECR wrote me back and said, Bellin would like to do this homage to Adam Hughes. Are you okay with that? And I said, like, again, like I said earlier in the show, if the artist is jazzed to do it, I'm jazzed to have them do it. So this came out really, really well. This is done with pencils. You know, Bellin sells a print of this now on the green room. It's an absolutely terrific piece. It, again, no scan does it justice. It's just a 3/4 bust piece, you know, which is sometimes more affordable for folks, and was not the biggest type of commission that Bellin was doing at the time. But Bellin was not necessarily an artist I was like hunting after. This was something I stumbled into because of ECR and how helpful they were. So this is great. I have a picture of Bellin holding this piece from Comic-Con. I think it's the picture that I posted as a review to their gallery in Spain. It's just a terrific piece. It's beautiful. It's romantic. It's got everything you want. The costumes are beautiful. Jean is absolutely beautiful in the Phoenix costume. The blacks are actually like more golden and brown, so it's got like a nice depth of color. And Scott is almost falls to the wayside, which is perfectly fine in this one.
Mm-hmm. And yes, Marcus, he's reminding us that the scan does not do it justice.
if there's a theme, it's that, or maybe that we're all
a t-shirt we need to make for the channel. It's a hashtag, but it's true. Doggone it. I don't know about many of those out in the chat, but I have the hardest time scanning pencils only pieces. I cannot get those come even close. So color's one thing, but pencils are hard to scan as well. I mean, I don't know if it's my scanner is more built for for maybe a little bit more office related scanning, because I bought one of those HP printer fax machines that are oversized, so it's great, but pencils are the worst on it. I think my Mustech that I had 10 years ago scanned pencils better than this thing.
Yeah, it's tough, and the print is, I think, slightly manipulated with some Photoshop. It's a little bit smoother and
Mm-hmm.
pops a little bit more off the page. But this again is just something like so unique, and it really does justice to the Adam Hughes piece, which folks can look at. That's a black and white piece. You couldn't be happier with this.
Well, we have another color piece with the pair.
Yeah. So this was also done by an artist that's rep by the Green Room. This is from Carmen Carnero, who's currently on Exceptional X-Men. So again, this was another piece I was hunting after Carmen, and Carmen took a limited commission list a couple years ago at New York Comic-Con. I did not get on that list. Sometimes it happens. And I said to ECR, I said, like, I need a piece from Carmen. Like, I really, really want a piece. Like, whatever I have to do, like, please, can we make this work? And it wasn't so much begging, but it was more polite and professional. But ECR put me on that list, and for 2.5 years, I was like on that list. And the minute Carmen came back to do commissions, this opportunity worked out. I just got this in the mail about maybe a week ago. This is not on CAF. It's really not been shown. Even Carmen and ECR have not shown it on Instagram very much. I think they've done just the faces. They've not shown the full-blown piece. I obsessed over the email to Carmen and ECR about what I was hoping to get out of this page or this piece. It's, cover level, full color. It's done with watercolor pencils. I sent Carmen the scan of the page from the Dark Phoenix saga. That's the scene where they talk about loving each other and their thoughts and how beautiful they are just before they fight the Imperial Guard, which I have the production cell from the animated series of. So it all comes around in this cyclical nature. But what's great about this piece is, like, Jean really is wonderful. And I think that's what is great about Carmen. She does such great feminine characters. The costume is more modern. It's juxtaposed with Sykes, normal Jim Lee, TAS costume. But the watercolor and the background, it's like she's flying them both up in the air. It's very topical to me because this reads like Superman and Lois in the new movie, and in all the Superman comics.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just gorgeous.
Agreed. I mean, you've said it all. I love the white highlight around her hand. I mean, there's just some fun, unique touches here that you don't see or have never seen with the characters before that make this piece fun. I mean, it's lighting up her posterior. I mean, there's lots of great stuff happening in this. It's beautiful.
Totally. I agree with you on the effects. I mean, a lot of times artists will ask, like, do you want a lot of powers? And I always say, like, hints of powers or them using their powers is a plus, but it's not necessary. Carmen, gave me really 3 questions, and it was like, do you want it more like dramatic? Well, the dramatic's not the right word, but is it more fighting or is it more of a mood? And then, there was another question about like the costumes. And then I think there was something about sort of, do you want faces or do you want, more of a figure pose? Like what kind of cover are you going for? And Bill, I can tell you, I talk about obsessing about thumbnails. I came up with a like a musical playlist for Carmen because I was reading like old interviews about how she gets into doing pieces, and she listens and makes playlists for characters. So I was like, ECR, I was like, do you need that? Would she appreciate like what I would listen to for music for Scott and Jean? But I really favored the sort of conversational drama that Carmen is really good at. And I think you see that a lot in what she's doing with Exceptional X-Men, because a lot of it is like the characters kind of interacting in this more conversational fashion.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a great cover, which you can purchase on the Green Room, that is Spider-Man and MJ having dinner. That is really great. There's another piece where it's MJ and Spider-Man like hanging outside on the fire escape, which is great. And so I think this is more evocative of that. And while she does a lot of black and white pieces, this full color piece is just mind blowing. And it was well worth the 2.5-year wait. A friend of mine has a Gambit head sketch, and they got it in the commission list that I've lost out on. And I was so jealous. She's an editor for Marvel. So I was like, of course you got it. And I didn't get anything. But to get this, even waiting and the patience only made it much better.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I'm gonna head over to the Green Room after the show just to see what those images look like. But yeah, you did really well with this one. Let's see, some black and white X-Men pieces coming up. Next one by Jay Lee.
Everyone should own a Jay Lee. Just buy it. This is another Comic-Con pickup from I think 2024. And in 2023, I was at Jay's table and I was looking at the list. I knew what I wanted to buy. I knew the price point I was willing to go for, but I just like paused for a minute and then got whisked away from his table. And I regret it. And I emailed him probably like May for an October show. And I said, like, I told him the story. I said, I waited at your table an uncomfortably long time, didn't pull the trigger. I should have pulled the trigger. I love these characters. You've drawn them a million times. I just want Jay Lee in all your awesomeness, no notes, go for it. He wrote back one sentence. He says, I can't wait. This feels like getting back into the groove of drawing Executioner's Song. I'm really excited to take this on. And then, I meet him at Comic-Con and pick this up. And, this is one of those pieces, it could easily be a cover. I mean, he did really the cover level commission perfectly. It's got the classic rocks and the emo faces and that style that Jay has. So, like I said, no notes.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And like CJ just said, such a great collection you have, Nick.
Yeah, thank you. I've seen a lot of comments to that effect. And yes, I do really love Scott and Jean, and I really appreciate it from the CAF community. You guys are all really, really sweet. Every week you guys come out in force and are really supportive of all the collectors and the artists and everybody that gets interviewed on here. So I'm really feeling the love.
Yeah, it's fun, right? I mean, for me, I've met a lot of different collectors because of this. I mean, you see their collections on the site, but you just never know what they're like in person. And then it's always fun when we get to do a few unveilings too, like we've done tonight, just showing off some pieces that haven't made it to your CAF gallery yet. But yeah, this is a good one. Jay always does nice work. He really does. Next up, is it the only? Well, it's not. Is it the only published piece that we have tonight? Boy, the animation piece. I guess you could consider it published. But here, let's take a look at this next one.
Yeah. So this
Man.
is really, and I aimed high for, a first OA piece to get, and a real published piece. There's a big story that goes with this, and I'm sorry if it gets weepy and misty. So everybody grab the tissues. But at Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, I was able to meet John Cassidy, and it was like a huge deal for me. I like freaked out about going to meet him. I brought some issues for him to sign. He was alone at his table. He wasn't doing remarks or anything like that, which is one of my favorite things to get at shows. But you could tell even before he passed away a few months later that he wasn't really well. And I think that's part of why he wasn't doing remarks. But he spent such a long time speaking with me. I am so grateful every day that I got to interact with him. He, of course, signs the issues that I brought. I had a sketch cover version of Astonishing X-Men. I had the Astonishing X-Men cover that Mannix did an homage of. And then I had another one of the issues that I really liked of Astonishing X-Men. I have all those signed. And he chatted with me, and we just started talking about like what we love about the X-Men, and he loves Cyclops. I don't know if folks know that, or if he's been real vocal about that, or was vocal about that. He loves Cyclops and loved Cyclops. So, of course, I had my favorite issue from the series there, and he goes, "I'm going to show you the page that I love the most," and flips the book open to it's issue 18, I think, or it's issue 8, pages 18 and 19. And there's a CAF collector who had them, who sold them on. I've already reached out to that CAF collector to try to track those pages down. They are in a foreign country with someone who probably will not sell them. Again, the awesomeness of CAF is you can get connected to these people. But he starts pointing, John points to these pages and goes, "This is what Cyclops is about." And if you remember those pages, it's everyone's favorite scene from Astonishing X-Men, which is when Scott says, "Get off my lawn," or "I want this thing off my lawn." And he completely annihilates the Sentinel. And he goes, "This is what Cyclops is about. It's about a man who has this awesome power, who has to exercise constant control of that power. He's more powerful than most of the X-Men, but he never gets to use it because of how his powers function. And that control is what makes him a unique character." Like at this point, I'm like practically crying. Like, he's explaining to me my favorite character and using the words that I would explain that page, to explain. And we're chatting, and he takes my phone and starts looking at commissions I had. And so I have this wonderful piece from an artist in Chicago named Jenny Stewart. She's not professional. She just does like Etsy pictures. He's like, "I love this piece." I showed him in my CAF collection. There's a cover recreation from a digital artist named Daryl Young. He looks at that, and it's in a Kirby style. So it's like the Mannix piece, but more of like what Kirby would have done with a lot of Kirby crackle in doing that cover of Astonishing X-Men. And while we're chatting, he's going through my phone looking at commissions. Somehow I get the phone back. I'm like just, I don't even know what's going on. And he took that sketch cover that's all black and white, and he takes a red marker and colors in Scott's visor. And he goes, "I remarked it for you." And somebody had come up at that point and wanted to talk to him. And that's, and then 6 to 8 months later, he passed away. So just, you don't get those moments. And like, this is a fun art collecting thing, and we do this as a hobby, but like, wow, talk about like getting to meet your heroes. So as soon as he had passed away, I went on the hunt for something, anything, those pages from issue 8. But I was able to find this page from issue 14. An art site had it. Like I said earlier, I think John only drew Jean on maybe 2 or 3 pages out of the whole run. And arguably a couple of times they're not even Jean, they're Emma in like a psychic projection. So this page, and I have the issue because Matt D frames them with the published art underneath them, which I want to echo and copy. So thank you, Matt D. So in this scene, it's when Jean and Scott are talking about when she first gets the Phoenix Force, and she kind of humors him, and I won't even butcher the dialogue, but she kind of, waxes poetic that like he's so worried about this force and his powers and her powers and how powerful they are. And she ends it with like, but you're just a man. And it echoed what John had said when we were at the table. And I just had to have this page. It's perfect John Cassidy. It's all faces. It's all dialogue. It's the classic 4 panels that he does. And, it's Scott with the hood down, which you don't get to see. It's Jean. And even though her face kind of changes between the panels, she's got the beautiful eyes in that second panel down. And then that look she gives in the 4th panel is just terrific. And sort of them, clasping each other in the 3rd panel. Like you can't get a better page than this. Like, I really don't know how you could top it. Yeah. And this is so meaningful to me to have a piece of John's work. I took it out of like the wrappings and the plastic that it's in. John draws so cleanly. There's not a stray mark on it. It's so wonderful. Like, you just know he just put it on paper. Like, it feels effortless when you look at how he drew on the actual board. Yeah, Matt, Jiggy, Marcus, thank you. Rob, thank you. It's like, yeah, sorry if we got misty for a second, but really one of my favorite things. Astonishing X-Men is one of the pinnacle runs, in my opinion. And this page is probably the perfect example of that.
I agree. I do. It's Cassidy's work on that book was phenomenal. I mean, I wasn't really familiar with his work when he took over on it, but it left such an impression on me as it has on many people. I think they look back at a lot of his work, but one of the joys of our hobby is getting to meet the creators, right? And it's always difficult when we lose them, as being a part of of this hobby that we love, but it's one of the best parts, aspects of it. I mean, the idea that you actually were able to have that conversation with him and have him point out the things that were most important about the character you love the most. I mean, how wonderful is that? I didn't know that Cyclops would have been his favorite character either, right? But no, that's wonderful. That really, yeah. And John was always a very nice guy. I remember, I think I saw him at one of his first cons ever, like a Wizard World Chicago, and when he was like the coolest thing, and I was, and probably I saw him at a Baltimore show, later in life. But yeah, he was always such a nice guy. I think he really appreciated his opportunity to make comic books, right? I mean,
yeah, you could tell. I mean, he was looking at like pictures in my phone and going like, who's this artist? Who's that artist? Like, what were you thinking about when you got this piece? I mean, like, and as a fan, right? And I've gone to, very few shows, right? And I commission, so everything I do is really like through the internet. To have that experience, like, oh my God, like you're never going to be able to recreate that. And like, that's the joy of going to those things. That's why I kind of, I have a love-hate with New York Comic Con right now for a couple of reasons. The cosplay thing is a little bit weird right now. We had a horrible experience last year with Con Crush and things that they were doing that weren't really safe. And Artist Alley continues to feel like it's in the trash compactor from Star Wars. And again, there's other issues with like AI print art being just sold down the line from great artists. Like there's some inherent things with like these bigger Comic Cons that I think need to be addressed for collectors. and artists. It's really unfair. It's price prohibitive for artists to go, which is really disgusting that great people can't go and exhibit their art. So it's both ends of the spectrum, right? Like, oh, I got to meet one of my favorite artists of all time. I'll never get to have that again. But also, like, you also have to put up with all this BS, right?
Right. No, I'm with you. You know, we were just at San Diego Comic-Con and they give them 3-foot tables and the aisles are, I doubt they're wider than 8 feet. And, you know, they cram 200 artists in the smallest space possible. And yeah, it's not dignified. And, you know, and like you said, it's, I mean, that's why, you know, obviously that's why OEX, we approach it as if we're curating an art show. I mean, that's what you want. I mean, I think that's what collectors want, and it's certainly what we want. And it's tough, right? Because cons are all about making money and stuff, and so artists have, you know, I mean, look at, you know, I could name many cons, and creators are the last group of people on an email list, right? It's
Yeah.
the actors, the voice actors, the cosplayers. Oh yeah, and then there's the comic creators at the bottom. I mean, there's just a level of disrespect that you know, that the bigger shows have, but it, you know, it is about, it's for them, it's more about the money than it is about taking care of the talent. And the talent finds better, you know, other ways to enjoy shows by making them like it's a trade show, right? When you go to San Diego or New York, so they get work done, they get things accomplished, but it's not the same kind of reverence that it might have been 20 years ago or something. It's definitely not the same, but it is what it is. Uh, let's see here. Oh, this piece, I got to ask you on this piece because this is the Josh Cassara piece. Did I
Yeah.
first see this when I had John on? Because I feel like he showed this while he was working on it during a pre-OAX something or other. Because I know I saw this long before it appeared on CAF, and I don't think it was done when he showed it to me. But like I might have asked him like, "What's on your drawing table tonight?" You know, and it might have been this piece.
So I don't know about that. This was done for Comic-Con 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you showed this on a show when I posted it to CAF finally months later, but I needed to get a good scan of it. And but we're really going to dig in for story time now and all the things you can do wrong about commissioning an artist. Yeah, I think Snorik picked it. So I met Josh a couple years ago at New York Comic Con, and I met Martha, and they're amazing. I have another Cassara piece I have a couple Cassara pieces, actually. I should be correct. I have Josh's 1-minute Cyclops sketch. So he put 60 seconds on the clock, drew Cyclops on a piece of paper, had it in his portfolio. I meet him at Comic Con. I always try to bring artist stuff. Like Drew, I brought some gummy bears. You know, I brought Mindy some chocolate bars. I brought other stuff for other artists. I know Josh really loves that black craft paper, or not black, it's brown craft paper from Michaels. So I bought him a ream of it and like jokingly slapped it down on his table and said, like, this is my gift to you, you know, so that you can run through these at the con. And we like struck up a really nice, you know, sort of friendship from that, both with Martha. I sent them some Wolverine t-shirts that a fellow collector was silk screening or screen printing as a nice thank you gift for the Cyclops piece, which he gave me for free. And so they were doing also, Josh will do live streams on his Instagram with Martha. They've started to peter out, but you know, this is when you get to like be friendly with artists and have a connection. So, you know, I was like, I gotta get something big from Josh. And so I had asked in like February, I sent Josh some ideas for Comic-Con the next year. And number one on the list was X-Men Halloween Party. And for some reason, for a couple of reasons. One, if you don't know, Josh started way back with a book. It's the Mycroft Holmes book, The Apocalypse Handbook, which was written by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It's like horror themed. It's got a lot of body horror, which Josh is really good at. And so at that same Comic-Con with the ream of craft paper, I found a blank sketch cover of that book, which Josh and Martha had never seen, never knew they produced. I found it at Midtown Comics. I gave it to him because I'm like, you got to have it. I had bought the graphic novel version, the collected series. Josh signed that for me. And that struck up, this friendship. And then I said, hey, if you want to do something like that, Josh does a lot of body horror. If you look at some of his Black Tom Cassidy pieces and work he did on X-Men, there's body horror in that all over the place. So I was like, why don't we do something horror themed, and Halloween would be good. And Josh was like, yeah, but I don't want to do like body horror. I want to do like classic Halloween. And like, you talk about obsessing. So this is what you should not do, kids. When you have one of your favorite artists and you have a good relationship with them, do not Instagram them War and Peace novel size texts of all your ideas. Do not go into a fugue state and start listing the 18 different costumes each character can wear and in priority order. I did that to Josh because I, probably felt overly comfortable. It took months for Josh to kind of like respond and be like, yeah, that's great, but like maybe we could, hone in on, some, specific choices. And I was like, okay, all right. I'll redo this. Like, and then again, it was another huge dialogue of me just texting huge like things. And I don't know if Josh or Martha would ever like tell their side of it, but I definitely did not do the right thing there. However, out of that long list of ideas came this piece. And there are very specific aspects that Josh picked and I picked and we picked. And I couldn't ask for a better piece from Josh because he does a lot of these covers where it's like a ton of X-Men and a ton of things. He does the Green Lagoon from Krakoa really, really well. He's replicated that. He did a swimsuit version of this shortly after, but he loved the Happy Halloween idea. Beast, I'll just go through all the characters because I don't think folks will really catch it. But Nightcrawler in the top left is a flying monkey from Wizard of Oz. You have Colossus as Abraham Lincoln. You have Beast as Teddy Roosevelt. You have Death, and then you have Wolverine as a pirate. And what's funny, Josh included that he's wearing the cheap plastic hook hand, even though Wolverine has claws. There's the cauldron in the back, which we picked because we were like, oh, it should be in the library with the fireplace. And Martha picked out the pumpkin in the bottom left with the Wolverine claw. I had said to Josh, Scott and Jean are the focus, and Emma should really be front and center as well. Emma's design is exactly what we decided first go, which was she wouldn't wear a costume. She wears her outfit and then wears a witch hat and is like, that's good enough for me. Josh loves to include cocktails in his pieces. So I said, let's do cocktails for everybody. Going along the bottom in the right hand, we'll go up the right side. You have Xavier and Magneto, and they're Angel and Devil, but they're switched. You then have Iceman as Stan Lee. One of the things that we had concepted with this whole piece was whether Apocalypse should be like crashing through the roof as sort of like the villain, like he's crashing the Halloween party. But then I said to Josh, why doesn't he just come dressed as a mummy? And Josh was like, perfect, it's in. You've got Storm as a Egyptian pharaoh with then doing the fog. You've got Kitty in the skeleton costume coming through the wall. I will admit, when he showed me Kitty, she looks like another character in X-Men who just dresses as a skeleton normally. And I was like, I know this character, but I can't say the words. And it's so embarrassing because Josh loves Kitty Pryde. He's drawn Peach Momoko's version of Kitty Pryde so many times. Like, it's like, oh my God, I biffed it again in front of one of my favorite artists. And then you've got Juggernaut as a ghost, which we thought was hilarious. And you've got Mystique in the top right-hand corner as like a Dracula character. And so this piece is rife with copyrighted materials. Like I have found over time how much of this, like the Wizard of Oz costume is copyrighted, the hair is copyrighted for Bride of Frankenstein, the features on Scott for Frankenstein are copyrighted, etc. So this is just like, if you're going to get a Josh Cassara piece, you go big or you go home. And this was, you know, one of those things. So really, 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 really tried hard on this piece. And I owe a lot to Josh and Martha because they've been extremely friendly, accommodating. They also hooked up my sister with a piece, which she got me as a gift, Beetlejuice, which you can see. And I know we've featured the Beetlejuice from Tom Fowler on the show before, but I needed to tell the story of how this came to be because it's so embarrassing, but it results in this absolutely terrific piece, which, you know, I just think it's one of those seminal X-Men kind of covers, like a cover level commission where it's like them doing a thing. Like they have the swimsuit ones and they have the sports ones. Now you've got the Halloween one.
Well, it's gotten a lot of attention on CAF, and deservedly so. And no, I love them both as well. I mean, they've obviously been in the first two OAX shows. They're coming to the third. They're an absolute pleasure to be around, and they embody everything that, you know, we want that show to be. And as a lot of collectors are, you know, I know there's several artists that kind of fall into there, but Josh and Martha are great. I bumped into them at San Diego. She had on a OAX lanyard, you know, with the logos on it. They're like, we're here promoting the show for you. So no, they are wonderful. But congrats. Now, we've been mentioning this other artist. We have two more pieces to look at, and the next one is by Drew Moss. So
okay, so let me just jump in. I think anyone here should be going to Drew's website right now and paying the obscenely low cost of his art, which I tell Drew all the time, you could like triple your prices and still like make money and be successful. He's on Thundercats and TMNT for Dynamite. You know, he's done Gargoyles there. This is one of the first pieces I got. It's one of the only pieces I've really seen where there's brood. Like a lot of artists do not draw brood. The color and the figures and forms, like Gene's doing this crazy like run and psychic throw, and Scott's just doing like a crazy optic blast. And this is framed. I should have scanned this, but it's even better in person. Drew is one of those terrific artists, and I don't think he's really gotten his due. And I think that like one day people are going to go, I have a Drew Moss, and like that's going to be like a jewel in people's collections. So, you know, I would say that, you know, for a lot of the artists that I've collected from, but Drew does such terrific work. He's a sweetheart. He breaks his back for collectors and for folks. You know, yeah, Stingray, he's one of the friendliest people you can ever meet. And, you know, I'm happy to consider him a really close friend. We got to meet at Comic-Con in person last year at New York. And this is perfect. I have this on the wall. I'll never take this down. It's in the show graphic because of how great it is. I will tell everyone, run out and get a piece from Drew. He works 24/7. He's doing books now. He's working on TMNT, as I said, Thundercats, and he still fits in time for commissions. Just, yeah, Drew deserves a lot of credit here.
Yeah, the brood are tough to draw. You know, I will say that. I can't think of a lot of commissions offhand on CAF with brood in them, just for that very reason. They were just so I mean, they were just so cool, you know, as far as creatures go. And I always like them as villains because they're like, you know, horror is, you know, is one of my favorite genres, and they just have that vibe, right? They're so creepy looking, and yeah, I can't get enough of them. But no, Drew did a fantastic job on this piece.
Yeah, the cutaways and colors on the powers are great. I think Drew has grown as an artist too, with like some of the ink washes he does in his backgrounds. If you look at anything that he's done for Thundercats, the moodiness that he sets on Third Earth with like his backgrounds, like you don't even need to look at how great his design of Tigra is, or how he's drawing Panthro. You just look at the sky and you're like, damn, I'm like, you love those pages. And I think that he does such great character work too. Like I've said, those Legion of Superhero pieces on CAF are amazing. I envision, and I probably shouldn't say this because I don't know if I've really told Drew this, but if he's still here. So Drew and I both love Daredevil. Daredevil is probably number 2 of characters that I love, behind the X-Men folks or Scott. And one day I will convince Drew to do like a poster size piece of Daredevil. And I have like a whole idea about it, but like, when you've locked into an artist, that because you want to just go back and get more art. Like you get a piece and you're like, nope, I got to keep ordering because they just do such a good job. And I want them to draw every character. And that's Drew for me in a lot of ways. And a lot of the artists I've said tonight, I want to go back to. But this piece is really great. He even gets like the reflections on Jean's gauntlets, which are really cool and subtle. And I love, it's not necessarily an anime style. It's more angular. To call it anime, I think kind of devalues it, but he's also got the Walt Simonson style, like thick visor on Scott. But it's got like a Kung Fu aspect to it, which I really like with this piece as well.
Agreed. And what's the size on this one?
So this is an 11 by 17. So it is, one of the larger pieces I have.
Fantastic. Well, Drew did a great job on it. I love it. I really do.
Yeah, we also floated this on the framing. So it's not that this is, he painted it, edge to edge. I think a little bit on the bottom, you can see where he didn't quite finish it, but I didn't want to lose any of the piece. So we floated this on the mat behind the glass. And so you get the full piece every time you look at it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a beauty. Just like this last piece, Nick. And let me switch over to that one. And yeah, this is Tom Fowler, of course.
Yep.
Just it's just so packed with detail. This one's just it's amazing. Of course, I love the dynamic postures of the figures. I mean, they're exaggerated, but it's exactly what you'd want out of Tom's work. And yeah, I really love this piece. I love the subtle use of color to kind of draw your eyes to the main characters. I mean, yeah, there's just a lot to love, in this artwork. It really is gorgeous.
Yeah, Tom is one of those artists. He doesn't take any input, so you get to pick characters. I don't even think he even asks for costumes. You do not get to, Fowler, bonkers, action packed, crazy. It's just this is one of the pieces like in the fire, like you're grabbing this like on the top of the stack. But
yes,
I got this in a Cadence commission list. They said you just get to pick the characters, you get to say nothing else. I gave this to Tom. I said Scott and Jean, and he comes back, and then not only does he draw them, but I think it's 11 members of the Imperial Guard are in the background, and you can count them. Some of them are just like a foot or a hand or maybe like part of a torso. But this is like perfect Tom Fowler. He's got great pieces on CAF. He's got great pieces he continues to put out. But like, I don't, it's unimaginable. Like you cannot say that you commission an artist, you give them the name of 2 characters, and then you think that this is what's coming out. And, he's a shy person in my dealings with him, but he's not shy in the art. Like it is all on the page. I wish I had a better scan of this. This went right into a frame. The orange pencil marks, really come through. So you get to see his sketching. The inks are beautiful on this, and it's so packed. It's so packed. You cannot look at this and understand most of what's going on. You have to stare at it constantly. It's gritty. It's typical Tom Fowler, where all the characters are lanky and damaged and broken. And my wife calls this the broken ankle piece, because she looks at Scott's feet and is like, his legs must be breaking. But it makes you want to go back for Tom Fowler. And he puts a lot of characters in. That's his thing. Like, you ask for Swamp Thing and you get Man Thing and all the other characters from DC. You ask for Magic from New Mutants, and he's doing a million other characters. So he is one of the most gracious artists, and that led me to get the Beetlejuice piece, which has been shown. I really wish people would check out the Ghostbusters piece, because we framed that immediately in a double frame that's black or red and white to match the Ghostbusters logo. And then I put glow in the dark. It's phosphorescent nail polish, and we dripped it with a syringe so it looks like it oozes. And when I turn off the lights in the office, it glows like it's been slimed. So yeah, Tom does great work. I have Tom working on something that's so mind-blowing. I don't even know how to justify it in my own mind. But yeah, this homage to X-Men 137 is just perfect. So I thought this was the perfect piece to end with.
Well, it certainly is. I've always enjoyed seeing Tom's work on CAF. I've never, I don't think we've ever met in person, but I'd love to. I don't think I've seen a work by him in person, but yeah, this is great. Yeah, I'm I'm blown away, as clearly you are, and it's created a long-standing commission relationship that you've started with Tom too, which is cool. So when do you think we'll get to see this next commission that has blown you away?
No word on that. I email Tom every once in a while, just like personal stuff, like, because we've chatted, but I don't ask him about work in progress. So, it really is just something that will be a complete surprise. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what he comes up with. Like you said, it is a long-standing relationship. I want another Ghostbusters piece because we had such success framing it with the green slime. Now I want pink slime to go with Ghostbusters 2 because I like Ghostbusters 1. My wife likes Ghostbusters 2. We put either one on and then we have to watch the other one. And so I need a companion piece for that. It's an addiction. You get one and then you've got to have more. And, Tom did such a good job with Beetlejuice. I think I'll have him revisit that too.
Well, I was just hopping over on Tom's Instagram just to poke around. Wow. Yeah.
Oh, I have to shout out two things. He recently did a book called Game Masters, which is a history of tabletop RPGs. Yeah, this is great. Doing the fastball special, but with Puck. I
Right.
mean,
It's amazing.
he's so clever. Like, this is, wait, go back to the affable monsters. So this is the other thing I want to shout out. Tom draws these every day and at least posts one, and they're just his own creature creations, and they're like dock workers at a space station or like at a spaceport, and they're always like getting coffee, and they have these zany uniforms. And for like a year, I keep saying, like, Tom, are you going to put these in a book? Like, I would buy a book of just every day, like 365 of these pieces. And he's this close to releasing his book. So they are, yeah, Stay Puff Man. Yeah. Stay Puff Marshmallow Man. No one steps on a church in my town. But I think these are great. And it's really, I'm sure he does these as like warm-ups, and he does great stuff. Oh, he loves violent Ewoks. I have his shirt that is an Ewok with a stormtrooper ear necklace, like real graphic. But yeah, Tom does great work. I mean, his stuff is just incredible. Yeah, that's Game Masters, the book he just put out. Yeah, I know a
Oh,
couple
I
people
forgot
who
all
felt
about
burned out.
that. I remember because we ran a press release, I think, for that when it came out, and I was like, "Oh, I need to back that," and I totally forgot. Either way, yeah, no, his work's amazing. Really, really nice. My goodness. I gotta stop looking.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a great couple DC covers, like alternate covers for Martian Manhunter, and
Mhm.
he drew June Squibb, the actress from Thelma, who's she's elderly. She's in it. I mean, he's just so clever. He really does not get enough credit, I think.
No, I love his work. I love his work. Um, there you go. Is this how we end the show tonight?
Yeah,
I
well, I flashed it for a few seconds, but I feel like, for Marcus and others who want to meme this stuff, I got to have it
yeah, that's
on
right here.
so that
Here,
they
let me
can
go.
meme it
Here,
appropriately.
full screen for those that need to get a screen grab of it. There we go. There we have it. Man, yeah, that's just like Ryan said, you have an awesome collection, Nick. Thank you for sharing. It's true. I mean, there's great stuff here, and what's even better is you curated the show for us by picking so many creators that we haven't talked about on CAF before. I really appreciate that. Um, a lot of I was I don't give a lot of direction, for when I ask people to pick artwork. I would never do it for anyone. I like you picking the pieces you want to talk about, but you did such a fantastic job tonight. I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciated that, Nick.
Thanks, Bill. It was a shock, and a privilege and an honor when you asked me to come on the show and present. And I will say you do not give a lot of direction. You give a lot of freedom, which is great. And I really wanted to come in and impress folks because y'all trash Cyclops in the chat. We'll have to take it to the street here. He's the number
That's
one
right.
X-Man. So come at me in the streets of New York Comic Con and see how well you fare. Just all the trash talking. Um,
That's right. Yeah,
but
I can only stick up so much, with all the womanizing comments I get and stuff. And I know Cyclops is, he has a reputation in the MCU, for better or worse. But he is the X-Men's greatest leader, and always will be. And it's funny, growing up reading X-Men. For me, Cyclops just represent. He was the leader, right? So you just kind of, as a youngster reading comics, I mean, you kind of gravitate to the guy who's the boss. At least I did. And you could like the bad guys or the naive, Colossuses and all that stuff, but yeah, the guy who's in charge is it. And Professor X wasn't leading the X-Men into battle. It was always Cyclops. So that's why he was and always will be the number one X-Men for me.
I agree with you, Bill, and I think he has a tougher job, right? He's really the first like child of a dream, right? And so if Cyclops can't make it work, then what does that dream mean, right? Like,
Mhm.
you always talk about like, oh, Xavier has this great dream or Magneto has this great vision, but like Scott is really the first person that's like the product of that. And so if he can't hack it, you know, remember the time he killed the professor? That's leadership. The professor deserved to die. Okay. I'll say that. That's one of my hot takes. Um, I also think he's much better of a character when he's with Emma. But the reason I like him with Jean is because they are like fated lovers. So if you guys are into tarot or anything like that's a concept in a lot of like magic and mysticism that like in alternate lives you'll meet the same people over again. And that's Scott and Jean. I think that's a really nice part of their story that they don't tell.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I think Cyclops is a great character and a great leader because he really has to perform because otherwise the X-Men don't work if he's not there. And that means that like the idea of what they're supposed to stand for or how they help other mutants, if like they're not realizing what that vision is, then there really aren't X-Men. And so I think they're trying in the newer series to kind of draw that out, like he's got a view, Rogue's got a view, Kitty's got a view, and they're all like living different versions of that dream. But I think Cyclops has really got to be the one. And two, I think, he gets a lot of shit because, everybody's fascinated with Wolverine, but like Wolverine can go do his own solo show, like whatever, he can go team up with the Avengers. Cyclops would never be an Avenger. He's always an X-Man.
There you go. That's why he's back there right now.
That's
Watching
right.
over us this whole show. Oh man, Nick. Well, listen, again, this was as fun as I expected it to be. Honestly, it was a joy, and I hope we get to meet in person. We can swap portfolios and see what the other has brought to the show. Because I guarantee you, if I know you're going to be at a show that I'm going to be at, I will definitely bring some X-Men art to look at. Although I won't have as many Mannix pieces as you. So,
Oh yeah.
but who can say they do outside of Jiggy potentially? But again, thank you for doing this. And it was kind of short notice, and I appreciate that. Schedules get kind of crazy sometimes. But you were like, as soon as I had a cancellation, I thought Nick is overdue to get on a show with me. So I'm glad you were able to make it work.
That is the most flattering thing you could say, Bill. I'm really happy to come out and support CAF and all the creators and all of the collections out there. It really is an honor and a privilege. And I think everybody who gets up there is a real steward of the community and the hobby. And so it's really great. And, I couldn't think of a better thing to do than rep Cyclops. I mean, we really put a lot into the set design and, the Cyclops costume. I've got my little pin on this side, which is, I think, from, the page just sold on Heritage not long ago, where he says, like, step back, I'm about to unleash my optic blast.
Yep.
So I had to bring out the full kit, but, it's for everybody out here. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks, folks. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Bill. If you ever need anything, you know where to find me.
I do. So thank you everybody for hanging out with us this evening. We went past midnight. We don't usually do that for collector interviews, but this one was a whole lot of fun. And we almost hit. Well, we were over 90 people at one point. So a lot of people tuned in for this one, Nick. And again, it was I think all because of the fact that you've a lot of creators and you've befriended a lot of collectors, and it made the show really enjoyable for everybody. So thank you again, and I look forward to meeting you in person one day, wherever that may be. I won't be going to New York Comic Con though, so it won't be that show. But yeah, keep me posted. Whatever shows you're going to, and I'm sure we'll get to meet in person one day, and maybe we'll do a panel.
We should do a panel.
Yeah,
that would be really cool.
That would be fun. All right, everybody, have a fantastic evening. We'll see you again soon, and thank you for hanging with us for the show tonight. Take care.
Thanks all. Have a good night.